Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. A lot of podcasts going on here. We got the Ramblecast, the Nextlander podcast, the Watchcast, the Beastcast. Hi, Alex Navarro. Hi, Brad Shoemaker. Alex, you and I just got back from PAX, and boy, my arm's tired, etc., etc. But
your lips tired.
They actually are a little bit. My lips got very chapped while I was in Boston.
So we talked about it on the Ramblecast, which you can go find at our favorite spot, patreon.com/Nextlander.
Or you could just go to the Beastcast feed, and you can also hear how that all went, because apparently they just put it up on the Beastcast feed, which is great.
Yes, I talked to Jan. Well, that's the PAX panel. I talked to Jan about when we were there. Somebody had mentioned, and I can't remember who it was, mentioned, can you put this in the Beastcast feed? And I was like, oh, man, Jan, can we put this in the Beastcast feed? And Jan was like, I think we can put this in the Beastcast feed.
Who's going to stop us?
So yeah, that you can find the PAX panel from this PAX, obviously, in the Beastcast feed if you still got it, or it's over free on our Patreon as well. And over on the Patreon, you can see the images and slides that were there as well, along with Bacalar's GIF. No video from the panel, and it was not in a live streaming room, but you can hear our thoughts on PAX from the Ramblecast we talk about.
So it just goes to show, never, ever, ever relinquish that old podcast feed.
Man, the RSS feeds, they're just...
You never know.
You never know when an update might come.
You know, I had one, I also had an old one that said they were stopping, and then I saw something drop in there like a year or two later, and I was like, it is a treat, right? You're just like, oh man, that is a beautiful thing. Thanks again to everybody who came out to watch, and thanks again to all the people who joined us on the panel there, and even to Austin, who couldn't make it because Austin works for a living. Because Austin...
That man's in game dev. We're never going to see him again.
Lucky we get him for Never Been a Better Podcast. That was a fun panel. I'm glad to be back, though, not only because I like being home, which is, a great thing. Yeah, busy weekend coming up. I got my son's birthday party. He wants to have some friends over and just play a bunch of video games. And then we got Easter. We got a bunch of other things going on this weekend. So I had to get my Switch in good repair, which means I replaced, I think I talked about it last time, replaced the analog stick, which was just busted on that thing. And
yeah,
then,
I don't think I asked, was it drifting?
No, it was physically broken. It was the clicking in. If you've never seen it on the component, the stick, when you click in, all it's doing is pushing a little switch. It's like a little outcropping on the thing. It just pushes the switch up and down. And there's like a plastic retainer that had broken off of that. So when it was so gross, I mean, it was like the worst stick feel ever. When you clicked in, it like felt like it went too far in and then stuck for a second and came back. It was really gross. Anyway, replaced that, recentered it up. That seems fine. But then when I was playing Princess Peach last night, the fan was growling like I've never heard it before. It had been growling once in a while, but man, this thing was angry.
I wonder... So I don't know if this is specific to this game or not, but I did notice in my time playing Princess Peach, it was not always running super great, and I'm wondering if that game is like maybe not as optimized as it could be, because it felt like I could see the frame rate chugging in places, which is not a thing I normally see with Nintendo games.
Especially during loads.
Yeah, it just seemed like it was having some trouble.
So, two things I will say. One... Nintendo products, this line of Switch products is put together well.
Generally.
Well, I'm going to say component-wise is easy to disassemble so far and not... I did not feel like I was going to wreck something right out of the gate.
Don't talk about disassembling your Switch. They will send the cops after you.
I'm just hypothetically, if
Nintendo's
one worked,
lawyers will find you.
Also, I will say, having modded, I think 4 Joy-Cons now, I'm going to exclude the Joy-Cons from what you're saying.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean,
that's a separate
doable.
issue.
It's totally doable. I even did it on video once, but you definitely are in there with tweezers pulling tiny ribbon cables.
There are definitely tiny ribbon cables. I guess I'm used to the tiny ribbon cables. The ones that are just like, there are no more pins anymore, right? You're just sliding thin film into other things with a little release on it. I'm kind of used to that. It's the part where if you move too quickly, you're going to tear those. That's the thing that they have a little slack in there. I'm not saying the quality of the... I might have said that. It's not what I meant. I'm not saying the quality of the pieces or anything are great. I'm saying being able to access it seems better than, let's say, I've opened at least a PS4 controller. I don't know if I've opened a PS5 one. I may have. They are complicated now.
Yeah, getting a... I don't think I've ever gotten a DualShock 4 open without not breaking anything, but like kind of scoring the plastic around the seams, or
you
got to get in there with a spudger and it feels like something's going to break.
There's a lot of tabs you're going to mess up. It must be the PS5 controller did, like the trackpad thing mechanisms in there, all the triggers, the haptic, everything is like pretty complicated. That being said, like, what am I doing here? Like, give me a new Switch. I'm ready to go. Like, at this point, I'm doing more repairs on it than I feel like I should.
Yeah,
Nintendo is not, however.
If I had known, hindsight is 2020. If I had known what the Switch generation was ultimately going to look like, which is looking like it's going to be 8 years now, by the time next May rolls around or March rolls around, I probably would have bought the OLED. I probably would have traded up to the OLED halfway through.
I've had that thought as well.
But now it's too late. Now it would be completely insane to buy a Switch OLED a year before a Switch 2 comes out. But in retrospect, the bigger screen, the better battery life, like the whole thing, I should have done it.
No, I still wouldn't do it for my purposes because we don't play it undocked, and I feel like most of those improvements were for the handheld experience.
Yeah.
My thing is more like, look, stick drift and broken analog sticks happen. The Joy-Con drift was a serious problem. Like that's a manufacturing issue, and I'm not excusing that. But every controller from every platform I've ever had has had analog sticks go out of whack at some point. Either I make the choice: is it worth my time to open this thing up and go in, or do I just chuck it in the trash and get a new one?
The answer is always no.
Well,
for me anyway.
What happened to me is sticks went from being like $40 to being like $60, $70 now, and it's like the parts for them are like 5 cents. Like the actual analog stick part, you can get like 4 of them for like $10. And they're not like knockoff. This is a cheaper version. It's like, if not the OEM part, very, very similar to it.
The Joy-Con one's hard to tell the difference. Yeah,
so it's not like they're not even that complicated. Brad, you and I were talking before the show. They're all resistor based, and they're just physically rubbing against plates in there. It's like a little wiper that rubs against the thing to give it resistance.
Yeah.
And Brad, you said there are Hall effect ones, and you get upgrades.
So I don't think you can upgrade existing controllers, but there are a bunch of third-party controllers. The new hotness in analog sticks is the Hall effect, which I don't have it in front of me, but I think basically there's nothing touching.
Yeah.
And there are no surfaces contacting each other when you move the stick anymore. It's measuring, I think it's like a magnetic field or something. It's measuring.
That sounds like the Hall effect.
Yes. To get the input data. So those are starting to show up in a lot of third-party controllers. I think like 8-Bit Do might be using them now.
I wonder if like the elites or the like more expensive controllers use better components for their analog sticks.
I don't know, but I think, don't quote me on this, I want to say the Hall effect parts are not actually that much more expensive.
But when you're making a billion of them,
when you're making 8-9 figure numbers of controllers, I'm sure it adds up very rapidly, but still, it would be nice to see all the manufacturers go to that on their next generation whenever that rolls around.
So the part I just bought, I didn't actually install it. Maybe I should have. On the replacement analog stick part I just bought for that Switch Pro controller, it came with basically a tunable resistor pad you can also install with it to fix drift if it happens, where you're basically turning a screw to realign the center. But the Switch also has pretty decent stick calibration tools in its software, and so I was able to just make sure everything's calibrated there, and it was pretty good. But right to repair, baby. You should be able to buy them OEM parts right from Nintendo, is what I say. Just get in there. If anybody's thinking about doing that repair themselves, what I will say, at least on the Switch Pro joystick, you probably don't want to get in there with just like without a actual desoldering tool. Getting the solder points off of that thing was kind of a pain in the butt, and I have a desoldering gun, so If you're going to use like solder wick or a solder sucker thing, you might, I don't know, think about it. Think about what your time is worth, I guess, I would say.
Yes.
But I think those controllers are like $60, right?
The Pro controller?
Yeah.
I think more. I think it's 70 since launch, right?
Okay.
Yeah, 70.
Man, yeah, that's like, for me, that starts to get into like, I don't know, I don't get that paid that much an hour. You know what I'm saying? Like, luckily I have all the tools. I've made the upfront investment on a lot of the tools, so it's a little bit easier for me. I'll say the Switch fan thing, that was a dining room table job I was able to knock out. The controller was on my desktop. That's where I have all my soldering stuff. But I was able to knock it out on the dining room table pretty easily.
That's the dining room table we built my PC on, damn it.
Yeah, I think we might have gotten the new one by then. The other thing I will say about the Switch, if anybody, this might be a thing to check out. The thermal paste in there sucked. It was like dried out. It was not enough, I believe. The way the Switch pipes heat is basically this pipe that runs along the back plane of the Switch to transfer heat to the like aluminum shield from the CPU.
Pipe.
And that thing felt like it could. I just put thermal paste up along it for transfer to the entire back plane and redid all the thermal paste on it. Also, my vents were pretty dusty on that thing, and they could use.
I believe it.
That is a thing I think if anybody wants to do, open up the back of your Switch. You can pretty much get in there fairly easily and just clean that thing out and maybe re-thermal paste the.
God bless anybody who lets you separate a housing by just taking some screws out.
It really was. There were no clips. It's not like lightly glued. It is not. Yeah.
I fucking despise invisible clips inside stuff like that more than
you will break one or four.
Yep.
Or when people do like that, they put a bead of glue or something around it. Really, really sucks.
Yeah, like a lot of the iFixit teardowns you'll see have you heating something up.
Yeah.
It's like, put this microwavable beanbag in the microwave for 30 seconds and then like let it rest on this seam for 5 minutes to loosen the glue. Absolutely.
Oh, I have a heat gun too, which I could put on low. Apple is the I was going to say Apple's the absolute worst, but Apple also is very much, or at least they used to be very much keyed into aesthetics. So to get that aesthetic, it's not user serviceable. Right? Like, there are just no screws.
And packing the amount of technology they are into a space that small.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. I've done screen repairs and battery replacements on a couple of things, and those always feel like you're a sneeze away from just shredding something.
Oh yes. I tried to replace an iPhone 3G screen. That was the last time I tried to service an Apple thing, and it did not go well.
Yeah. I mean, aside from all that has very flat ribbon cables and a lot of heating up glues, but that's screen repairs suck because you just have to basically make sure no dust is getting in there, which is, I'm going to say dust always gets in there. Anyway.
It finds a way.
Yeah, real quick. Well, two things. I think now all the screens are bonded to the
bezel,
the digitizer, the glass, and everything. Like they all come as one component now in the Apple case. I did look up Viiiiideo Hall Effect controllers. They have a range of nice looking controllers with Hall Effect sticks between like $40 and $45 here, $50. So if those sticks are much more expensive, they are not passing that cost along.
So I've never looked up like, hey, are there downsides to the Hall Effect controller? Or are there, I have no idea. Do they go bad at some point? Are they a pain about to calibrate? I have no idea. So maybe somebody knows. Probably. All I do know is current analog sticks will go bad eventually. Maybe I'm rough on my sticks. Who knows?
I mean, I had an Xbox controller that just became completely unmanageable after a certain point. Like the stick was just drifting like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my favorite 360
it's not
controller.
Just Nintendo.
By the end of the 360, my favorite controller, like I could tell which games had very small dead zones because I would just set the controller down and the character would just start, like for first-person games, like Borderlands was really bad about it. Like the character would just start moving forward on their own.
Or I notice it, the first place I notice it now, mostly, maybe this is the type of games I'm playing, are on maps. And when I open up the map, and if all of a sudden the thing just starts drifting over to the side, like, God damn it. Shouldn't happen on a $70 controller. It's $70.
Entropy comes for game accessories just like everything else.
Entropy does not care about your MSRP.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to talk about some games on the Switch, namely Princess Peach Showtime. We're going to talk about Open Roads. We're going to talk about Stellar Blade. But first, let's talk about Dragon's Dogma 2.
Okay.
Dragon's Dogma 2, that came out last week officially, I think, on last Friday at the time of this recording.
Taking the world by storm-ish.
So my initial impressions of Dragon's Dogma 2 are a couple of things. One seems to be the complete edition of Dragon's Dogma, finally available. If you like
took them some time, they got there.
If you like Dragon's Dogma, this seems to be the best version of Dragon's Dogma, maybe? I don't know. I'm not a huge
Well, they've only made 2
Dogma.
of them, Vinny, so I would hope so.
Well, I don't know if this is the best version of Dragon's Dogma 2, but it maybe is the best version of Dragon's Dogma. From what I can tell, and from what I hear some other people saying, that it is very similar with a lot of tweaks here and there. You know?
Yeah.
The other thing is, I really like it so far. I'm still fairly early on. I've heard some things that, in kind of looking into some of the systems, that maybe the story doesn't go a lot of places. Maybe there's not actually that much quest diversity. You know, some of the combat could run where it's welcome at some points.
Another complaint I've seen late game is like the basic enemy variety is pretty limited.
Yeah. So
by basic enemies, I mean just like the goblins and harpies and stuff like that you find along the road, not the big, climbing on the back of a cyclops or a griffin type fights, but a lot of combat against goblins.
So, but from what I played so far, from my experience, I have really enjoyed it. I am, for reference, there's a mission where they ask you to wipe out 3 camps of baddies.
Is that like a monster culling?
Yeah, it's monster culling.
Is that the you've gotten to the capital and the guy gave you a bunch of chores to go do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm in the same.
One was like a stealth thing, one was the monster culling, and one was something else. I can't quite remember what it was. So I did the monster culling first, along with a couple of other side quests, and I just finished that up, and that's where I'm at. And I unlocked, and I'm now using the other 2 vocations. The I don't think it's barbarian, but it's very similar. It's like
warrior, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
Fighter is one-hand sword and shield. Warrior is two-hander, great sword.
And then sorcerer is the other one.
Yeah. I'm doing the mission now where they're like, hey, if you want to train these vocations, go find the weapons, and I'm in that mine to find. I just found a great sword.
So that you could do that monster culling in there as well, because I think it's in the mines. You have to clear the monster.
Oh, is it not a specific? Okay, the map was not clear. Is it not a specific location? Is it just kill a bunch of monsters?
I think it's called. I think you have to clean them out from the mines. You should run into some people in the mines that are like, help us. And
I just found those people.
So if you kill everything in there, eventually, I think you get both of those done.
Okay.
So I'm using Warrior now. It's a really interesting one. I'm not sure I'm going to stick with it. This is where I started to look up some videos and stuff on the game, because you're putting time and points into these vocations that can affect what stats increase, apparently, when you level up.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
That's what a video I watched said. So,
so at the time of leveling, like that's irreversible, is what you're saying?
Look, I'm no expert. That's kind of the gist I got from it. So I've got a couple of points in fighter, and I've got a couple of points in warrior, and a couple of points in thief. But you do get, for those playing, I'm not going to go into all the mechanics of it because it's a little funky with the vocation, and I don't know how much was in Dragon's Dogma originally, but there are poppable skills, like skills that are basically like, hey, they use stamina. There are basic attacks, like things that don't use stamina, that you can drop points into. And then there are like class-based or vocation-based buffs that you get. And
passives.
Yeah, and those stick with you no matter which vocation you take.
No kidding.
Yeah, so you can unlock those from a certain vocation and then slot those in and keep it in there.
I did not know that. I've just been mainlining fighter the whole time. I haven't bought another vocation. I will give them credit. They make it very cheap to buy the other vocations.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not so cheap to buy abilities for them once you actually switch, but if you just want to dabble, that has almost no cost.
So apparently the archer has like an endurance or stamina buff that you can get that makes your stamina go down.
Really?
And then there's a couple of other classes, I think, which we haven't talked about, which I don't have yet, that have some other buffs that people are like, you should definitely get a couple of points in here to get this thing. So I've got like 3 of those buffs from the 3 classes, and now I'm using that warrior class, and it's a charged attack class. So you are really slow. Everything is really slow, but you're very survivable, and you do massive damage. You do big damage, but I think I like that rogue class, the thief. I think I like that thief class.
Interesting.
It's fun.
There's like 800 different random things I could say about this game that I've noticed as I've been playing, but one of them is, I don't know how they're doling out pawns every time you go into Rift Zone to hire new pawns.
Yeah.
I am seeing absolutely zero thief pawns out there. I mean, almost none. And again, I don't know if that's like has something to do with what I'm using. Like maybe they bias the pawns they give you based on some factors you're rolling with or something, but like it's like 95% fighters and mages every time I go.
No,
and I might get one or two archers and almost never a thief.
So that's why I made Cadbury, my pawn, a thief. Originally, I also
still makes me laugh every time you say it. I don't know why.
Pawn names, like seeing the pawn names and designs people come up with, is one of the simple joys in this game.
I originally had him as a mage or a magic user because I was a fighter originally and made him a magic user. It seemed like a good compliment. But I ran into the same thing you did, where there were like no thief pawns out there. So I changed him to be a thief, and now he's a thief in a fighter. And is it cleric? What is it mage? Is it mage and I'm sorry, what's the other vocation? The spellcaster?
Mage and sorcerer.
Mage and sorcerer. Okay. I think it was Benefactor's pawn was a sorcerer, so I pulled in a sorcerer. No healing on the sorcerer. So Benefactor's pawn stuck with me for about one fight, and then I was like, nah, this is not going to work for me. I'm at the stage where I need a healer.
Is sorcerer like just offensive magic?
Yeah,
just damage dealer.
It's like massive AoE, I think.
Okay.
It was cool, but I kind of need that. I can't heal. Nobody else could heal.
I got to say, well, first of all, like healing items are super plentiful if you bother to craft like at all. But at the same time, I've crafted a ton of healing items and never ever use them because my mage pawn is just healing me constantly.
Yeah, that's just video games.
It's another thing I was going to say coming in here. This is going to sound reductive, but I cannot imagine right now playing this game with my main pawn being anything other than a mage. Like, it does so much for you.
Well, I mean, you could have another pawn be a
I know, yeah. but the difference is with your main pawn, and I like this about the game, you outfit your main pawn just like your character. Like, you get the entire same range of vocation options, you assign skills just the same way. They even give you the 4 face button interface for you to assign the active skills, although you don't get to tell the pawn which one to use. But also, main, I did start over since last week, and I had to recreate main pawn exactly. And now he's just main with an E on the end. But it was like super. It almost feels like he's like reading my mind a lot of the time of exactly what I want him to do. You know, like I bought. I got the flame buff. You know, you can like enchant my sword and shield to be flame imbued. I got a heal. Overhead lightning strike thing. I bought him the levitation skill.
I don't know if I've had that yet.
Yeah, so and the levitation was the one that really got me because like he's constantly buffing my sword with the fire thing or healing without me needing to tell him to or whatever. Like just very versatile and useful in combat. But like the first time I looked up at a rope ladder, you know, there's rope ladders everywhere in this game that need to be like accessed, or like drop down before you can use them. I just pointed the camera up at it, hit up on the D-pad, which is the go command to pawns. Yeah. Next thing I know, he's just floating off the ground.
Really?
literally just levitating up to the side of this cliff and dropping the ladder for me so I can climb up there. I was like, dude, I barely even had to tell you to do that. This is so awesome.
So that's cool. There is a thing for the warrior where you can launch pawns, like throw them, like springboard them up.
Oh, maybe I should. I've been ignoring that one. Maybe. Can you use that to do the same thing?
I don't know. In the video, I didn't get it. In the video, they show launching pawns onto enemies. You know, that's the way they do it. But that makes me think that that's a pretty good use for that too, for those ladders. I've been rolling with my thief as my main pawn. The other thing that I don't think is surfaced extremely well is the traits you pick for your personality on your pawn dictate how they behave in battle also. If you do like kind, straightforward, I think kind will be more hang back and heal you more. Straightforward will run out. And I don't remember if there was a tooltip or text underneath it at that point when you picked it, but you can change that later on too.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. So I think mine is calm on Cadbury, and I think I'm going to change him to straightforward. Even though I like his personality, he's kind of a rogue. He needs to be out there and dicing it up.
Proactive.
Man, I'm so attached to the straightforward voice that I have on my pawn. I don't think I could ever give that up.
I know. It's kind of I wish it separated that stuff out from characteristics of the actual pawn. So my thing with the pawn, when I go into a Riftstone, I'm mostly I was trying to pull from friends' pawns.
So how are you doing that? I've just not even I run in the Riftstone and there's there's just a big circle of pawns and I just pick one and go. I didn't realize you could filter by friends.
So in the main town Riftstones you can. On the ones that are the abandoned or collapsed Riftstones, I don't think you can. Okay. So when you're at the main town ones, you can filter by type and whatever, but you can also look at your friends' pawns. And the problem I'm running into is they stay at the same level they are. I think that they are in their main game. So if you're level 5 and I'm rolling around at level 15, rolling around with a level 5 pawn kind of stinks.
Oh yeah, I change pawns every 30 minutes.
Yeah,
at this point.
yeah. So right, so and maybe you've noticed this. I'm not, and this might just be a Dragon's Dogma thing I wasn't aware of. Do they start charging you based on how far outside and above the level is?
Yeah, any pawn above your level will cost RC.
And then it goes up and up and up.
The higher level they are above you, the more it costs. But any pawn your level or lower costs nothing.
Okay. So yeah, I've been trying to do the same thing of like, look, you were fun to roll around with for a while, but you're just not keeping up anymore.
I'm done with you.
I'm done with you.
Yeah. Have you done the staying at an inn in town and then getting your pawn coming back from somebody else's game and giving you a report about the type of person they adventured with and stuff?
So I just read about that because it's like 2,000 gold to stay at an inn and it's basically free to camp outside.
Yeah, it is pricey.
So I had been avoiding it and then I read that that's what happened. So I think I have not. So I'll try that.
Yeah, you have to do that you get them back for the first time where they're like, hey, I went off. You wouldn't believe what I did overnight across the room. I was like traipsing the rifts. And there's a full report about like, the guy I was with was very miserly, but this happened and blah, blah, blah.
Have you gotten a gift? I give apples to people.
Yes, he did come back with a skin of some kind.
Okay.
And how do you like them apples?
Yeah.
I you got to keep an eye on them so they don't rot.
The apples, you just turn them into dried food, or I guess if they rot, can you turn those into lamp oil? One of the ones you can turn into lamp oil. Maybe
some of the rotten stuff you can turn into lamp oil. You can eat the rotten food, but it'll give you blight.
Speaking of which,
the ripened state is a pretty short window or maybe I just forget to check, but it feels like it takes forever for fruit to ripen, and then like I miss it in a second, and then it's rotten.
So the aged on the meat too gives you so much more benefit if you cook it than the raw.
Yeah.
So you want to wait until that aged meat. You're not worried about your pawn bringing back a little something from the rift. A little.
My understanding is that's like kind of a late game thing, and also they warn you pretty explicitly. Is my understanding.
Okay.
If they're showing the symptoms and there is a way to cure it,
a pawn rot or whatever it is.
Dragon blight. For people who don't know, this is amazing. I don't know that I would be saying that if I had encountered it myself. But pawns can pick up a communicable disease in this game when they're in somebody else's game and bring it back with them. And then basically, if they are sick for too long, they turn rabid effectively.
Yeah.
And can like wipe out an entire town.
Yeah.
Like stories all over the place. Quest givers. Like there's stories out there all over the place of people like, I turned the game on, the entire town I was in is dead. And like you'll see videos on Twitter of people like walking around to just the town littered with corpses. Again, including the NPCs that you needed to do quest advancement stuff with. Apparently they will come back to life after some amount of in-game time.
So I didn't notice this, but it's another thing I looked up when I was trying to figure out exactly what was going on in this game. There's decomposition in the game for enemies. So if you kill like a Cyclops and come back to its corpse over the course of like 3 days, it'll be decomposing.
Oh, do they stay that long? Like I've even just in the general vicinity, when I've killed something like a Cyclops, I've been pretty impressed at how long the body stays around.
So in game days, obviously, but
I assumed if I got like, say, 500 yards away, it would despawn or something, though. I didn't realize they stuck around. That's awesome. Yeah,
and apparently they have different textures and models for the decomposition.
Man, that's cool.
And then that's how you can kind of see when they're going to respawn, when the decomposition stops. So this is a game that I went and eventually started going to look up some videos because I felt a little out of my depth and very nervous because I'm a nervous RPG player. Am I messing something up? I'm not a go with the flow RPG player. I want to, especially for my first playthrough, want to make sure I'm not doing anything permanent. But I will say after watching those videos, I'm now playing Dragon's Dogma to borrow a word from the youth, a little YOLO, a little like, you know what? I'm just going out there and I'm not going to sweat it too much because it feels like there are systems out there currently that aren't fully understood, that can change. You know, there's a lot of randomness out there, and it does feel like hey, don't try and buck the system, man. You just go and you have your Dragon's Dogma 2 experience.
It really feels like if you want to play this game at all, you have to kind of give yourself over to its philosophy, because there is no save scumming whatsoever. Like, there's zero chance unless you're going to like manipulate cloud saves, and even then that would be super clunky. There's kind of like no chance to, like, you got to live with it. When you do stuff in this game, you just have to live with whatever just happened.
There was one thing I saw in one of those like YouTube, hey, top 15 things I wish I had known when I first started playing Dragon's Dogma. Do you know those coins that you can turn in at the
Seeker token?
What is it called?
Seeker tokens.
So apparently there's a later thing that, like, some trivia thing, I don't know, I'm not going to go into detail, that requires you to remember where you got your first one.
What?
Because you have to go back to that spot.
Fuck, man.
To get that first one. So I have only turned one in, and I have no idea where I picked it up. So I don't know if that becomes a thing later on where it's a set location where you can go look it up. You're like, hey, 90% of players got their first one here because it's in this first town, or if they're randomized. But I saw that and was like, damn, that's not going to happen.
I think I might actually know where I got mine.
Oh, that's good.
I think it was in a bird's nest on top of one of the hills north of Melv. On the way up to where you fight your first Cyclops that you did on that stream.
Yeah. Okay,
in one of the Harpy Nest?
Melvin's Town, yes.
Pretty sure that's where I got it.
But all of those things aside, I'm having a really good time bopping around in there.
Yes, I am increasingly Dogma pilled the more I play this.
Yeah, more than anything else,
awesome.
I have really enjoyed. I mean, this seems like a game that is absolutely built specifically for Chris Person and highlight reel, because it is a game that is entirely about, yes, there are scripted things. Here are all the ways you can fuck that up in really spectacular ways. And every clip of that game is just like, hey, here's a guy on a cart just kind of rolling it down the road, and whoops, giant eagle came in, broke everything. Fuck.
Yeah. Apparently, like, giant monsters can just randomly show up in the middle of town, like major towns. You can just be in there doing, like, I'm selling stuff at the vendor. Why is everybody, like, cowering all of a sudden? Oh, shit. There's a Cyclops just stomping around in the middle of the town square.
I saw someone say that they actually, like, they were trying to get away from a Cyclops that was chasing them. They thought going into a city would make it, like, eventually detach. Instead, it just started tromping through the entire city and destroying everything.
That's amazing. I feel almost remiss coming in here and saying, like, hey, I think this game's great when I haven't even done much outside of Cyclopses in terms of big fights. Like, that mine I'm in right now, I turned to the left right before I went in that mine. There was a griffin, like, perched on the top of the hill.
Yeah, they're hard.
I was like, should I go fight that griffin? Maybe I should level up a little bit more first. Like, I was kind of intimidated by it, but it seems like that's the real game, right? Is like fighting all the huge monsters, which I haven't even done that much of yet.
A little Monster Hunter-esque. I tried fighting a griffin, and it was one of those fights where I was like, all right, let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. And then you go over, and there's one attack, and all your pawns are like, which actually, it was two of the pawns, which was great because the pawns will actually, the ones that are alive, pick up the dead ones and try and run them over to you for a heal.
A little fireman carry.
Yeah, so I was holding a pawn, and the Cadbury was holding a pawn, and we were just hauling away from the griffin for as far as we can go.
Amazing.
Until we can get out of there. I'm like, no, that might be beyond our... I mean, it had like 4 health bars. It was like too much.
Yeah. This game is pretty densely mechanical. Like, the inventory management I found a bit cumbersome. Or just tedious. Like, it's a lot of busy work, you know? Like, you're constantly moving items to your pawns to reduce your equip load.
Very low carry weight.
Yes.
If people are just getting out there and playing this game, one of the things that it took me a little too long to realize was you only need to have one of those camping kits.
I have not understood. Yeah, I haven't understood why I keep finding more of the same kit, because they're infinitely reusable as far as I can tell.
Well, I had one on one of the pawns I had, and I released the pawn back into the rift. Do they take their inventory with them?
No, the pawn inventory goes into your stash, like at the inn.
Oh, in the inn. Okay, so because he had the camping kit, and I switched them out in the field, and I didn't have the camping kit anymore. It must have gone back into the thing.
Yeah, you don't lose it. I will say that I've started using that as a kind of cheap or easy way to port items back to the stash.
Smart. Yeah.
If I find a riftstone out in the world and it's time to change pawns, I just load up the old pawns with stuff I don't want to carry anymore.
Smart.
And it dumps it in the end for me.
So apparently the better kits, because I looked up too why the kits, like what do you get for better kits, and their weight goes down quite a bit on the like elite kits.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess they just scatter a lot of the same ones just in case you don't have one on you.
It says in the description they can be destroyed if you're attacked at night, though that's not happened to me yet.
Oh wow, that's crazy! Like, man, there's just like so many ways this game feels like it breaks rules.
Yeah,
in ways that are mostly punitive, but also kind of awesome and exciting.
Very sandboxy,
that sandbox can occasionally get very filthy, but nonetheless,
I think they warn you. Now that I think about it, isn't there a tutorial, like a tooltip at some point that cautions you about camping and getting attacked at night? But I can't remember what the factor is. There's like something you can do that makes it more likely to get attacked at night, but I can't remember.
I thought they say make sure you clear out your surroundings. Like, just
maybe that's what it was. Yeah,
camp. It might be the combination of that open world sandbox stuff might come at the expense, from what I've seen now that the game's been out for a while. Some people saying it's pretty light on story, and I'm not experienced that. This is kind of anecdotally, and some of the things like character variety pretty minimal.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that they made a game that's very experiential. It's very much about just like what happens to you while you're out in the world, not necessarily like a giant codex or rich story. It's more about just the moment to moment.
But I don't think I've played, and maybe it's my fault for not playing Dragon's Dogma 1, but I don't think I've played a game in a while, an RPG in a while, that feels so campaign. And I mean campaign in the kind of traditional sense, like you're out campaigning in the world, right? I'm making a lot of field stops.
Yeah.
Like we're just going, like, I've got my crew here. We're just marching on. You know what I mean?
It reminds me a little bit of how I played Red Dead Redemption 2, where you start sort of getting into your headcanon, or it feels very much like I'm on a road trip and I'm having to make decisions about how to survive out here. And
right, you're plotting a journey.
Like when to rest strategically, and can I make it to that next whatever?
Yeah. Before
I have to do X thing, maintenance thing or whatever.
And some of the things that help with that feeling, I think, are the I forget their mechanical term for it, but the damage, the permanent damage that you take where you have to rest to recover that permanent damage, and the very, very limited carry capacity.
Yeah. It is. I wish the inventory management was a little better. Like when you're in an inn depositing stuff into the stash there's a like multiple select option, but they don't give you that in the just regular inventory when you're working with your pawns.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
like you can in the end you can just like button on every item you want to deposit, just flag and hit deposit
all.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, just out in the field, you have to give each item individually to a pawn. It's just a lot of busy
which
work.
is like 3 button clicks, right? Because it's like click 4. And then like give,
click, hit give, pick which pawn to give it to, and if it's a stack, you have to tell it how many to give.
And the other thing with the inn, even though you can do the multi-select, they have different interfaces or at least menus for withdraw or deposit. So you have to like back out, go back in. Yeah, some of that stuff feels clunky. I hate encumbrance, and this has a pretty significant penalty if you're heavy, and then but I don't know if I would turn it off if I could mod it out, because it does feel really integrated into its version of its reality, like whatever it's doing there. So I don't know. I might keep it, because again, I'm trying to play this game a little differently than I do most RPGs, which is see everything and don't miss a thing, and this has a sense of a living world that I usually don't get, not a world that's waiting for me to do something. It feels like a world that is, we better get out here, go do this thing, come back, and if we make it, I don't know, this person might be alive or not. I've hit a couple of quests now that have tails on them too, where it's like, oh, you do this dumb thing, and then in another town you meet the person again, and they're like, hey, you helped me out. That was pretty cool, which I also like.
Yeah. There's a lot of time limited stuff in there, which they allude to early on.
Yeah.
Quests that can only be done at night, or you can only have so much time to do them. Very dynamic.
Very dynamic. I've even gotten I don't know, it's corny, but like even the dumb pawn bantering, I'm I kind of like.
That's
at this
great.
point.
It's like one of the best things in the game, and that's why I was saying I like having a mage main pawn. Maybe the hired mage pawns also will use a big variety of abilities, but I just felt like I had more of an ability to influence what my main mage pawn was going to use. Like I said, by picking which abilities he has equipped on them. I guess other people's just come in with the ones they equip.
Yeah,
I assume.
I believe that's true. I mean, look, I could just bring in main as well.
It's true. It's just bedlam, though, like the combat. Also, some of the quests, like the one where you go to the capital.
Yeah.
Like, I had like 5 other people rolling with me on my journey to the capital.
Yeah.
And my 3 pawns. I was like, this posse was like 9 deep or something, you know what I mean? Like, just chaos rolling around with this huge squad fighting like 6 or 7 enemies at a time. There's like magic exploding left and right, and there goes Maine flying through the air. Like it's just fun to watch. It's just a mess.
It's fun to watch. I have found some areas feel quite dense with attacks. Like you're like, oh my gosh, again, we just got through a bunch of orcs.
Yeah. There was one part in particular where I died like 4 times on just this random harpy spawn, but I didn't realize I was pulling a goblin spawn as I ran up to the harpies because the goblins were way off to the side.
Yeah.
Where I didn't really see them. So I was fighting like 4 harpies and then like 6 goblins got on top of me, and I was like, what the fuck is the combat design in this? But
so are you a fighter?
Yeah, for now.
So how is your aerial ability to take down like harpies and stuff on your own?
There's a critical ability, at least for me, that is basically just a giant like flip in the air slash attack.
You can hit it? You can hit the harpies?
You hit harpies quite easily with it.
Okay.
And one hit with it brings them down, and then you can kill them almost instantly.
Okay.
I've also found that useful for, it seems like it might help stagger stuff like ogres or cyclops. Like it might help throw off balance. I haven't gotten a good sense of like how exactly to throw a big enemy off balance. Like which attacks are and are not doing it. Yeah.
Or I'd climb on their head. And when you climb on their head as the warrior, since you're a 2-handed weapon, you literally just start bonking them on the back of the head.
I was gonna ask how you climb and use a great sword at the same time.
Yeah, you just bop them with the pommel. So the thief gets an awesome thing, which is like a rope. They can just like grapple onto enemies and rip them down out of the air, and that's really good. And the mages and the archers obviously have range stuff, but as the fighter or the warrior, I was really struggling to hit some of those flying enemies out of the gate.
Yeah, I'm not married to the fighter. I just, so far, I've been maining it so I could put all my points into seeing higher level abilities on one vocation rather than spreading across several like thinly.
Check out some of those other the passive is probably the best word for it. I forget the permanent.
I can't remember what the name is for those. Augments, I believe.
Augments, that sounds right. You should check them out and see because they come pretty quickly at the early levels, and you kind of level vocations pretty quickly.
I'm like half done with the fighter already.
Yeah. Dragon's Dogma 2. It's a game that could easily put Final Fantasy Rebirth on hold for a bit.
Yes. For better or worse, it has mostly derailed Rebirth for the last week. I'm not putting Rebirth down. I did play a little bit more of it. I needed to put some time into this. I needed to see. I needed to know what this was, but I'm going to have to find a way to juggle both of these games.
My son has been playing a lot of Final Fantasy VII music on our speakers on our Spotify because he's playing Remake now. And I'm like,
which one? The remake soundtrack?
The remake soundtrack.
Not the original. Do they even put like old soundtracks on Spotify? Probably not.
Everything.
They do?
There's tons
some of those publishers do now.
Really?
Yeah, because they figured out a way to make at least some money off that stuff, so they let it happen.
Huh.
And then it's funny to hear him going through and, not having a ton of experience with Final Fantasy VII to be like, yeah, this is a cool song, or, like, hey, the soundtrack is beloved, man. This is a...
You don't understand, man, all right?
It's good.
Angel. I'm like, you haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet.
I like 7 soundtrack just fine. It's maybe not the number one, but
it's a very like I said, beloved soundtrack. It was probably one of the first ones that people were clamoring for orchestral versions of, right? Like when they were like, I'm going to the orchestra to go see Video Games Live or something.
But it was definitely an early, very popular example.
Yeah, I would say One Winged Angel probably put that thought in some people's minds of maybe this could be arranged in an actual symphonic way. It was like early mid-2000s, I think, when those actual concerts started taking off.
Okay.
Like I've got a framed Dear Friends poster on my wall signed by Uematsu, actually, from whenever that tour was.
I looked up because I wanted to hear it, and I don't think I had heard this before, but an arrangement of the opera from, was it Six?
Yeah.
And they have like real voices and
wow,
and the whole thing, which
like
is
write lyrics.
Yeah,
man, I might have to check that out.
I mean, there were lyrics, right? The lyrics were on screen. They just were saying "Ba, ba, 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 ba."
I don't think the written lyrics would necessarily map to the.
It was like Draco and Maria or whatever it was.
Oh, I can't remember what the character. Maria sounds right. I can't remember.
I don't know. Anyway, I heard it and I was like, that's cool, but you need to hear the original.
Yeah, I'll say really quick, I actually said this on a solo stream recently, like the real bellwether for me in America was when game soundtracks started shipping on CD.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure.
And that was kind of mid-90s, 95, something like that.
Like independently.
Yeah, like when the people making the games started just selling CD soundtracks from like, I think the Final Fantasy III soundtrack was the first one I ever bought on CD. And like I knew it to be a thing in Japan. I was just like, oh, every game gets its soundtrack on CD in Japan. That's awesome. Why can't they do that here? And then slowly they started to.
Well, that is Dragon's Dogma 2 and a little Final Fantasy in there. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about some more games. Just a minute. Stick around. This week's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Alex Navarro, Brad Shoemaker. If you didn't know, then you do know. Here in the United States, it is tax season. The time of year when you go through and say, why did I spend all this money on this subscription I'd never used?
I could have given it to the government.
Exactly. Where's your money rocketing to? Into the pocket of the government.
Yeah, as everybody's going through and doing all sorts of audits, maybe you should get Rocket Money to help you audit your subscriptions you don't use. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/Nextlander. That's rocketmoney.com/Nextlander. rocketmoney.com/Nextlander. Thanks, Rocket Money. All right, we are back. And Alex Navarro, you have had the opportunity to hit the open roads.
Yes, I have. This is a game that has had a fairly fraught development history, given what happened with its original developer, Fulbright. This is now the Open Roads team that are making that, still under the Annapurna banner, and I'm pretty sure that team is mostly just the people that were at Fulbright that were working on this game, now kind of free of what went on there with Steve Gaynor and his general the problems people had with him as a leader and a coworker. And so this is a game that feels very much in the general wheelhouse of like Fulbright stuff, of Gone Home and of Tacoma. It is a road trip game, but it is also a game where you are going to places, you are picking up objects, you are getting dialogue from the other character that is sort of the main character in the game, and just having these conversations about this stuff.
So what I know about this game, or what I remember about this game, is its art style. Like it's like very striking. Does the art style, like, what is the gameplay, basically? Like,
it's basically what I described. Like, it is a narrative adventure. You are picking up objects. You are getting dialogue from those objects. And
but do you have full control over the character, or is it like an icon, or like a cursor on a menu?
So it is like, there are sections that are first person walking around and just picking stuff up. There are other sections where you're like in the car, because this is a road trip game.
Yeah.
And when you're in there, you're not really moving around, but you are still doing the same thing. You are touching things, you are engaging with things and having conversations.
Yeah, the road trip thing is what I was going to ask about, because their last few games were very much like small contained location. Gone Home is the one house, like Tacoma is the one space station.
Yeah.
So this is, it sounds like this is a different vibe of you're not in a place so much as you're going from place to place. Like it's less about exploring one location. I assume that tells, or that modifies the style of storytelling if you're not using something like a family's old house to communicate the whole narrative.
It is to a degree. It's still spaces like that. Like the game opens, you are I think 15 or 16-year-old girl, and your mother is there. The mother's played by Carrie Russell. Caitlin Deaver is the daughter. And you're basically cleaning out your grandmother's house after she died. And so you're going through her stuff and, kind of looking at stuff that is, because the house is also in foreclosure, so you kind of have to get everything out of there relatively soon. And so what you end up finding is a thing. I'm not going to spoil any of the specific details here, but you find a thing that kind of unlocks this memory or this idea that there might be something more that went on during her life, some kind of family secret that you didn't know about. And that kind of sets you out on the road on this journey of like kind of digging into that. So I've only played through the first like few vignettes here. But like the next place you go after that is the old summer cottage that your family had way back in the day, which has kind of fallen in disrepair. And you're kind of doing the same thing. You're poking around, you're looking at stuff, you're hunting for, more memories, but also stuff that kind of leads you down kind of the main narrative path.
And when you find those things, is it like gameplay wise? Do you know when you found the thing? Is it basically
yes,
like ding?
There's a "Hey Mom" button basically, and when you say "Hey Mom," that engages a dialogue section. Sometimes there are dialogue choices. Sometimes it's very much just like here's the scene that happens.
Okay.
But so like you're moving around in these 3D spaces, but
first person, right?
First person. But when you're doing the character back and forth stuff, the images of the characters are fairly static. There is not much animation. It is kind of a 2D animation on top of a 3D world kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's what I was asking about with the gameplay and the kind of graphics, because the characters look almost hand drawn in that flat style, but the backgrounds all have this not highly detailed, but more detailed render style, right? Like a 3D.
Yeah, the backgrounds kind of just look like the other Fulbright games, kind of the way they build out spaces in their games.
And the characters almost have a like 90s cartoon style to them.
And that's deliberate. This game takes place in 2003.
Okay. Yeah,
and so like the technology,
I love the way it looks.
Yeah, the technology and everything else around the edges, like you have a phone that you use to text your dad because your parents are divorced, but the phone is a flip phone. It is like really rudimentary texting. There's a lot of like very early millennial aesthetics kind of, peppered throughout. It feels like a very deliberate choice to set it during this time. Like, I think one of the things you find is like a newspaper with like a 9/11 memorial on it or something. And it's just like, it is trying to evoke a very specific period.
So I guess these games tend to live and die by their writing, right? Like their story they're telling, how the characters are interacting. How have you found it so far?
It's interesting. So I really like Gone Home a lot. I thought Tacoma was a smarter game that was not quite as of a knockout as Gone Home was, but I felt like both of those games had like pretty sharp sensibilities and pretty significant things that they wanted to say. Obviously I have not finished this one, but so far this feels like a much more simplistic is the wrong word, but it's a much more contained and much more just about these characters and this family, and it doesn't feel like it's really angling toward anything really that severe. There's some stuff with your dad. It's not really explained in the early goings, like what the nature of the divorce was, what was happening there. You and your mom have some tension. Your mom has some tension with her sister, who is not helping out with the cleaning out of the house. There's some stuff happening there, but it feels very low stakes family drama and not like bigger, like grander things.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, the two you mentioned, like, Tacoma and Gone Home, had some pretty interesting swerves.
Yeah, Tacoma in particular, really had some very heady ideas about what it wanted to say about labor and things like that.
Yeah.
It's possible there might be some turn in here that I'm just not predicting just yet, but I will say the performances are good. Like the two main actresses are very good, and their dynamic together feels pretty natural. Like the editing is good, so it doesn't feel like it's two women in a booth that are not actually talking to each other.
Yeah,
like there is a flow to it.
I had to chuckle slightly when you outlined who's in the cast, because I was like, "What do you mean Carrie Russell is the mom? Shouldn't she be the daughter?" Oh,
yeah.
Oh, we're old.
Yeah, yeah. Carrie Russell is 48 years old. Yes. Just saying.
And so are we.
Excuse me, 48 years young. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
This is coming out on the 28th, which as of the time of this recording is tomorrow. So you're playing on Steam?
Yeah, I'm playing on Steam. It's also out on consoles. I will say the Steam version, at least in the review build, did not seem fully optimized. They kind of said, like, hey, this thing will not run very well on a Steam Deck right now, and also I've had it crash a couple of times when I've quit the game, but so far that has not resulted in anything bad. But, you know, you might want to just check and see how the launch day version is.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. We don't know pricing exactly on this yet. It's not, or at least the price isn't listed on the storefronts yet.
It does also seem like it's probably fairly short. It does not feel like a game that is trying to pad its length.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of curious where they'll land on pricing on that. But I am curious. I do really like that art style. That they have going on.
No, it looks nice. It's not anything like, you know, overly impressive, but it works for the way they're trying to tell their story.
As Open Roads, pretty much a narrative adventure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I guess the other term for this is interactive movie, but I kind of like narrative adventure better because it feels like there is at least something more going on there. You're not just watching it.
Yeah, but kind of you're here for the story.
Yeah.
Cool. Open Roads, again, should be coming out on the 28th. That's a Thursday.
And reviews are out now, so you can kind of see what the early impressions are if you want.
Gotcha. Next up here on the old rundown, Princess Peach Showtime. Princess Peach Showtime. I picked this up. This came out last Friday. Is that right? Before we wound up going to PAX.
Friday.
This one is $60. This, I didn't know what to expect from this.
I didn't really either. I knew about the suits. That was about it.
I think they were like weirdly coy about a lot of things about this game prior to release.
They still haven't said who actually developed it, have they?
Well, now, I mean, you know, it's in the credits now, so people know.
Yeah. Goodfeel is listed here. I don't know.
Yes, A. Goodfeel is one of the best developer names I've heard in some time.
Shout out to Goodfeel.
B. The director, it's weird. It was like I was just playing a Goemon game on that N64 stream I did. And it turns out the director of that game directed this.
Okay.
And it's his first game in like 25 years.
Oh.
I'm trying to confirm. Etsunobu Ebisu is the director of this, and it sounds like he had not made a game in a very long time.
So why were they being so weird about saying who made it?
I doubt there was any like anything nefarious there. They just maybe Nintendo never really makes much of who actually develops their games.
But they usually also don't try to obfuscate it, is the thing.
Nintendo, it's a weird company.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Maybe Goodfeel likes to keep their heads down.
I literally just had this conversation with my son maybe 2 or 3 days ago. Well, before I went to PAX, about who Game Freaks are and HAL Labs, and like what how they kind of integrate in with Pokemon and Kirby and all of those things. So Nintendo's always, I agree, has always been a little bit less floating their developers
less forthcoming.
Yeah. So Princess Peach Showtime. I had to run out of the house yesterday. I had chess lesson. I was like, I'm trying to debate what I want to get in, not last minute, but usually Tuesday nights are my night to sit down with something I want to really dive into before the podcast. And I was like, I think Princess Peach Showtime is going to be that game. As I was leaving the house, I was, usually my kids don't get screen time during the week. I said to my daughter, "Hey, you want to help out with work?" And she and she was like, "Well, what do you mean?" I was like, "Do you want to play something and tell me what you think about it?"
Get in the video game minds.
I was like, all right, you've got 2 hours. I need 1,500 words. Be thinking, no, I was like, you play this game. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I would love when I get home, and I do love you, but I would love when I get home to have a better understanding of, should I spend the rest of my evening with this game? Because in the back of my mind, I'm saying, because I really want to continue with Dragon's Dogma. But should I put the rest of my time in here? Or do you think that this is like, you kind of get what you need to get in like 15 minutes? So I come home, and she was like very mid on it. Like she was like, you kind of,
not without its charms.
Yeah, well, she was like, it's okay. Like, I was like, would you play more of it? She's like, yeah, maybe. Like, all right. She explained what you do in it, and she couldn't quite put it into words. Like, is it a platformer? Well, sometimes it's a platformer. Is it an action game? Well, sometimes it's action. So I wound up playing it, and I think I like it more than she does.
Okay.
It's a very, first thing you should know is this game is not difficult.
It's low impact.
Yeah, low impact is probably the way to put it. So Peach winds up, it doesn't matter how she gets there. She's in a theater that winds up being Luigi's Mansion for all intents and purposes. It's like
it gets the fucking Ghostbusters 2 slime over it, and people can't get in.
Yeah, and she's in a world where the population, I think, is called the Theets. So you have to go, the Theets
they're the new little glowy guys that exist in this world. That's all you really need to know. And
they're having problems with their plays because the mansion has been taken over by a Grape and the Sour Bunch, I think are the baddies. And what that means in terms of the gameplay is, well, first, I would love somebody to say when Nintendo started doing this in their main games and how long it's been. Peach gets a side character, like a little star that winds up different than all the other characters. It's this glowing star next to her that does all the talking for her and does all the exposition and gets abilities and stuff.
So she can just go, oh,
yeah. So it's the Cappy, it's the little star bit, and mechanically, what you do is you go enter a room, and Peach has this basic attack, which is, I believe it's called Sparkle.
It's like she's in the fucking color guard. She has one of those ribbon things that you spin around, basically.
I believe it's called Sparkle. And I believe the antithesis of that, the thing that is ruining the plays,
the anti-Sparkle,
is called Darkle.
Yeah.
It's Darkle.
That's the plane we are operating on here.
So you've got Sparkle. They're spreading Darkle. I can't even say it. They're spreading Darkle.
You sparkled my Darkle with a Farkle.
And so every time you use Sparkle, people are uplifted, plants bloom, stuff happens that, I can't go on.
Okay. Did you have this thought? I think you're curing their depression.
Yeah. Oh, that's
just straight up what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're giving them fucking Wellbutrin.
Yes. And so that happens for about, 10-15% of a level until you get the suit in the level. And that's where you become like Pirate Peach or Cowgirl Peach or Cook Chef Peach or Detective Peach. And once you put that on, you get a unique ability that adds different gameplay to the level. Right. So Sword Fighter Peach suddenly is able to, it's a 2-button game, by the way. Sword Fighter Peach, it can jump, and if you jump at the right time, you do a counter, or you can hit, and if you hit at the right time, you also do a counter. Chef Peach does a bunch of mini games about cooking in her level. Cowgirl Peach does lassoing. My favorite one, I think, was Detective Peach, which examines objects and you try to solve a mystery, which was kind of fun.
Also, I really have to recommend against anyone ever Google searching Cowgirl Peach. Just don't do it. Don't put those words together into Google.
If that's your thing, you got all the peaches you want here.
I'm just saying, if you're trying to Google a guide, maybe look for a different thing.
You could eat a peach for hours. I'm just saying. There's a ton of, I think there are 10. I think there are 10 different peaches in this game, or suits for Peach.
Yeah.
Then they're all pretty different. I think low impact, Alex, is exactly the way to put it.
It's different gameplay. Hard. None of it is really that challenging, and that parrying system is almost comically easy.
Oh yeah, you could spam. There's no timing. You if you're hitting the button when somebody comes at you, you will counter.
Totally.
The thing I really don't like about this game, because I kind of generally do enjoy it, is you're collecting, like most mainline Mario games at this point, or things with Mario in it. Not that this is, but it's similar in some ways.
It is Mario Universe.
You're collecting basically stars throughout a level, and you need a number of stars to get through their gate. at the end. So to get to the next set of levels, you need to have a certain amount of stars.
Yeah.
Throughout the level, which could be anywhere from, 20, 30 minutes or so, you're collecting these stars, and it's very easy to accidentally walk a screen too far or to go through a door and just go in the wrong thing that you didn't mean to go into, leaving a star behind, which means you have to restart the entire level again.
Not that these levels are gigantic, but yes.
They're not gigantic, but they have unskippable cutscenes unless it's a pre-rendered scene. You can skip the pre-rendered stuff, but all the dialogue that happens, you can't skip any of that. So you just have to sit through what might be 5 minutes of dialogue throughout a level. It just feels burdensome at that point.
Yeah, a little bit.
And some of the mini games that are just like, I just need to get this last star because I went in the door too quickly and I got to go through 19 minutes of other crap that I did already.
I did not like that cooking one very much at all. I was a little bit more okay with the first one, which is the
Sword Fighter.
The Sword Fighter. There was at least a little more going on there.
Yeah.
2024, year of the mini game, apparently.
So the cooking one, or maybe it was the Cowgirl Peach one, was the last one I started trying to get all the stars before I moved on. I just was like, forget it. And again, on the low impact side, I think I have 50 stars and the threshold is 15 to get in. So it is very much you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think you get, or at least from what I can tell from the limited time I played with it, you get 2 occurrences of an outfit and then a 3rd special level before you release the Staria, or the special person who is supposed to be in that role. You release them eventually. So you do get repeats, so you can do an outfit twice. At least I did with the Sword Fighter, and then I released the special person who was supposed to have it. Secret Agent Peach is pretty cool. Actually, it's Master Thief Peach. That was a pretty fun one. They're neat. I mean, I don't hate it. I'm on the 3rd floor in their theater, and that's when I was like, I'm gonna do this again. All right, I'm gonna put this down. I'm gonna go do something else for a while. That's when I hit my wall a bit.
It's what I said at the beginning. It's not without its charms. It's nice looking. It does not run extremely well, but when you're in the gameplay, it runs pretty well and it looks nice. The gameplay, what I've done of it so far has varied between, this is all right, to, this is not that great.
Yeah.
But none of it has been bad or offensive. And also none of it has been, it just feels very middle modulated. There's not a whole lot, there are not a lot of peaks and valleys.
Yeah, I would say it goes from being very, very serviceable. I don't know if I've ever hit something that's this is really fun, to sometimes it feels tedious. Sometimes I'm this feels tedious. But I'm kind of curious to see where it all goes, not because the story is amazing, because, it's got outfits. When you get to see different outfits, that's fun, right? Don't you want to? That's why you're in there. You want to see what
at least they make those outfits feel meaningful. They do feel different enough from outfit to outfit with abilities and such that it's okay, you actually created something around this.
I've always said, and I think we've always said at Giant Bomb and GameSpot and beyond, kids deserve better games. And
agreed.
I think this is a totally serviceable game.
Is it a better game? No, but it is a totally acceptable game, probably.
At a skill level of a 6-year-old or 5 or 6-year-old, I think this is a one that people should consider. And like I said, I think I enjoyed it more than my daughter does.
Well, that's also, that's kind of what Good Feel generally has done. They made the Yarn Kirby and the Yarn Yoshi stuff for a while there. They were definitely making the games that Nintendo was very laser targeting at the younger players.
Yeah.
I did not realize that's who they were.
Yeah.
The Epic Yarn and the Crafted World and so forth.
I don't know if they made every single one of them, but they definitely made Epic Yarn. I think they made at least the one after it.
It looks like, they did Yoshi's Woolly World, Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn.
Yeah.
Or they did Epic Yarn to begin with. Yoshi's Crafted World. Yeah, it seems like they've done pretty much all of those.
That makes sense.
So, maybe I've got the technical or gameplay ability of a 5 or 6-year-old, but yeah, I kind of enjoy it.
I've always said that.
Yeah. Where my kids definitely are.
Just own it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Roll with it.
My daughter's like, why don't you pop Bloodborne back in? Let's get real again. Let's go back in. I'm like, no.
It's just fucking like a true goth.
I gotta head back to Yarnum. You go finish up this thing. Enjoy Cowgirl Peach.
Now we can check off another item on the increasingly short list of Switch exclusives yet to be released.
I
don't know what else there is this year.
This one, I would be surprised if this one is like one of those transition games that comes over in the early days of whatever the next Switch is, being like, yeah, and Princess Peach Showtime. But
well, I think there was a story going around today that Nintendo just restructured a bunch of their QA department, and I think part of that is because they don't have a lot in the hopper right now as far as big new games coming up.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a list. I can't think of much else that is announced. There's the Paper Mario remaster thing, right?
Yeah.
Probably something else that I'm not thinking of. Maybe Metroid Prime 4 will get announced for this year or something. Who knows? Probably going to be pretty light on the Switch for the next few months.
Yeah. This is one of those games that you feel like 25 years ago people are talking about and forgot about. Like Mario's missing style. Like, oh, remember Princess Peach Showtime? Like that was a weird one for a bit there.
Sure.
But we'll see. We'll see how it does. I mean, it's a Nintendo game. I'm sure it'll do just fine. Especially like we just mentioned, there's really not that much coming out, especially first party.
I just looked, actually. It's the Paper Mario Remaster and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD are the only first-party games I see coming up that are announced.
But yeah, in this household, I'm going to say generally positive.
Okay.
Yeah. If not, maybe, like I said, sometimes a little tedious. Lastly here, Brad, a game that's not out for a while, but you played some of it, Stellar Blade.
Stellar Blade, the demo.
Stella Blade.
Which will be out for everybody on Friday morning, I believe.
All right.
This is a Korean-developed game, which they make kind of a big thing out of that in the message that came along with the code. It's just like, hey, there are not a lot of Korean developers that make console games. It's mostly PC and mobile here. So,
is that true? Yeah, I guess
we're pretty excited to be making a console-only game or whatever. It's published by Sony. You've probably seen it in the recent State of Plays.
Yes.
It is very slick-looking character action game with a very skimpily dressed protagonist.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of games with female protagonists and parry systems. I'm guessing the parry system in this game is quite a bit less forgiving than the one in Princess Peach.
Probably.
Can you just mash the button until you parry?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Extremely not. This game kind of... the demo, my understanding is the beginning of the game. It straight up does the progress carries over to the full version thing, which just seems like it's becoming a standard all of a sudden. It feels kind of like a throwback in some ways. It's pretty linear. The levels are fairly linear. The character action is kind of familiar, I would say. It's a lot of square, triangle, light, heavy type stuff. But it's extremely parry and perfect dodged focused.
And it's kind of third person action game, right?
Yeah, third person action game. I see people saying it's like Sekiro meets Nier Automata. Sure, I guess. I've only played about 90 minutes of it, but I could see both of those influences here a bit. I don't think I'm not 100% sold on the action yet. There are parts of it that don't feel quite as tight as I would like the dodging.
Oh,
the dodging and jumping stuff just maybe not quite as responsive as I would like. But the parry windows are very short. You really got to be on it. It's not like, hey, at the end of the enemy's wind up, the last 10 frames of the wind up is when you can start to parry. It's literally the attack is about to hit you.
No slowdown,
no.
Okay.
There are skills on the skill tree. They do expose the skill tree in this demo pretty early. You can make those parry windows longer.
Okay.
So that helps. But even in the first area of the game, I'm already seeing enemies that have full-on just unbreakable shields that you kind of can't hit without parrying.
I'm watching a gameplay video of it now, and their official gameplay, this 3 minutes of gameplay, this person is not dodging at all. They are just trying to parry everything.
Yeah.
Is the dodge meaningful in a way that you can get out of the way?
The parry is built into the combat system. The dodge, the perfect dodge, is a thing on the skill tree.
Okay.
So it's something you might not even have if you decided not to buy it.
Yeah. From this gameplay, it seems pretty hard to get out of the way of these multi-attacks unless you're parrying. Yes.
There are unblockable attacks, though, unparryable attacks that you would have to dodge, though, which is where that comes in. I just got an ability right before I stopped playing it that makes it easier to... It's almost like an auto-dodge behind enemy when they're about to do one of those unparryable attacks.
Oh.
You can do a different sort of last-minute button combination and sort of port behind them.
Okay.
So you can hit them from behind while they're doing one of those unblockables.
Oh, I just saw that in the video I'm watching.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't use it in practice. I only used it in the like virtual training mode, and there they slow it down for you. So I'm not sure how fast you have to execute that out in the world.
Okay, this looked like a blink of like a green blink or something happened.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
It seems pretty good so far. Like the combat seems relatively tight. Like I said, I mean, it might just need to get used to the timing on some of the stuff, but like there's some like navigating around the world stuff, like jumping between like bars you're swinging on that feels pretty clunky in kind of an old-fashioned way. The other old-fashioned thing about it is it's got some pretty extreme boob physics that are not quite dead or alive level, but definitely pronounced. Like it kind of, there's some things about this, both aesthetically like that and some of the design stuff that feels a bit sort of PS2 era, and I'm not saying that in a super critical way, but more in just hey, this sort of, there are elements of this that remind me of what video games used to be like 20 years ago.
I was going to say from the video I was watching, some buttocks physics going on here too.
Yes.
Because there's some spandexy booty.
You're part of a squad of like all female cyber super soldiers that are basically dropping onto I guess it's Earth.
This says Eve and her comrades land on the surface to reclaim the extinct Earth and cross paths with the survivor named
Adam.
Yep.
Yes, Adam and Eve. Also, the aliens that overrun Earth are called Natibas.
Yes.
For whatever reason, but it seems somewhat interesting so far. It's like I haven't seen anything that you have not seen before in this type of game, but I think I would need to like fight some bosses,
sure,
and like really put the time in to see what the timing is like on all the counters and stuff. Because it is a very dodge parry counter kind of combat system, very heavy on that stuff. It looks nice, like it looks sharp, runs well.
For sure.
But pretty small environments, like I said. I haven't found anything that's like very exploration heavy. You get to checkpoints that are kind of, I don't want to say bonfire exactly, but like you do have basically a renewable heal Estus Flask kind of thing. Every time you rest at one of those, you get all your heals back, but
do world enemies
respawn all the enemies, and you can fast travel between all of them.
What are you getting? How are you getting points for your skills?
You just attack. I think just killing enemies earns skill points, but you're also charging beta energy.
Oh,
which is what you use for like special combat abilities that you can trigger.
Oh, okay.
Pretty big skill tree. You can be like, I want to charge beta energy faster. I want more health. I want these parries to be easier. I want more special attacks. Standard stuff.
Stellar Blade.
Yeah, like it seems relatively solid. I feel like I would need to play more of the final to really make up my mind.
And you're playing
for sure.
Again, you're playing the demo, which will be available when?
Friday morning, I believe.
This Friday morning?
Yes.
And then this is set to release, at least according to the stuff I have here, April 26th.
Yes.
Which is a Friday.
Yeah. PS5 exclusive. Seems pretty good. It seems not bad.
PS5
a lot of nice, like nice art, like the ship designs, like the capital ships that come in that are dropping all these super soldiers onto Earth at the beginning, are like a really unusual looking ship design. Some interesting art stuff in here.
Do you think this game will come to PC?
Maybe, probably.
Sony's kind of pushing out on maybe it's a development thing. Like they couldn't get the two platforms up.
I don't even know if Sony funded this proper or if they're just publishing it. Like maybe they may not, because there are situations like Death Stranding. Sony had exclusive console publishing rights, but then 505 put out that game on PC.
Okay, that's fair.
So Sony could bring this over depending on the terms of their deal, or another publisher could to PC.
Sure.
I would be shocked if this didn't come to PC at some point.
Yeah. It is a looker.
It looks nice.
It's pretty good there. These characters are cool. Booty physics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just, like I said, I'm like 80% of the way there on liking the combat, but I'm not totally sold yet.
That's Stellar Blade, and I think that's going to do it for our games for this week. Plenty of stuff, though. Man, it's one of those things where I might go back and finish up Princess Peach Showtime because it's accomplishable within like a weekend or so,
Something nice about, like I've been seeing people talking about going into New Game Plus and Dragon's Dogma, and they're like, yeah, I beat it after 40 hours and went into New Game Plus. I'm like, What do you mean it's only 40 hours? That sounds so short.
It like kind of does.
It totally does. It 100%. Like the inflation of hour counts on stuff, like, particularly like Rebirth being like 90 hours to do everything or whatever.
Apparently New Game Plus, from what I read again, and they're doing patches and updates as we speak, but apparently New Game Plus does not make it more difficult. You just kind of go in there with your stats and stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, because it doesn't have difficulty levels.
No.
Either. Weird.
Yeah. Do you know what the level cap is in that game?
No, I don't.
Okay, I should look it up because I feel like I'm burning through levels pretty quickly. All right. Those are the games for this week. We'll have plenty more next week. But now we're going to take another break and come back with the news. So stick around. All right, we are back, and it is time for the news. And there's been GDC stuff, there's been PAX stuff, so you're getting a lot of interviews with people. You're getting a lot of talks, some developer talks. Things are happening. One person out there making the rounds, Phil Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, what's Phil been? What's he been? I guess championing, advocating, talking about in regards to Microsoft and Xbox.
Polygon did a big interview with him, kind of just about the state of things generally, contraction in the business, what's going on with consoles, whether it's all sustainable, etc. A couple of like newsy items came out of that conversation. I think news-like,
news-adjacent,
news-ish. Not exactly news you can use, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
One of those is about an Xbox handheld.
The dream of an Xbox handheld.
Yeah, they kind of put the questions to him because, he talks in this piece about, obviously he's used all the competition, the Asus and the Lenovo and the Steam Deck, like everybody's solutions for handheld PCs. He had kind of two answers to them saying like, how about an Xbox thing? One of which was like more explicit than I would have expected. He said about the Xbox hardware team that they are considering, quote, different hardware form factors and things they could go do. What should we build that will find new players, that will allow people to play at times when they couldn't go play in the past? So he didn't flat out just do the normal, like, we have nothing to announce at this time.
Right.
Kind of made it sound like they are thinking about it and like they have to be thinking about it with the success of the Steam Deck. But he also gave the answer you would expect of like, every handheld could be an Xbox.
Yeah.
Which is very, very consistent. And the other thing that is kind of news-like that came out of this is in the same vein of like, everything should be on everything. Like Xbox should be on everything and everything should be on Xbox. So he basically alluded to the idea of, what if the Xbox platform was on the Asus, the ROG Ally, or maybe not the Steam Deck. So it's probably not likely to happen anytime soon, but you know what I mean? It's like, hey, what if our infrastructure, what if our layer was on your existing handheld that let you like get all your Xbox saves on there and stuff like that?
Really their ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
Like
yes.
I thought it was interesting in that article, specifically about the handheld, Phil doing and this is why I kind of like listening or reading about Phil really going into when he's playing the examples of, like you said, Brad, like, oh, you should be able to get your saves for Fallout here, right? Like this is what would make this a better Xbox thing. And like kind of just going through somebody who understands, like, aside from financials and prices, what the brand is, a person on the other side of this might want, right? Like,
yeah, I think you kind of see why people tend to trust the things he says, even though there's plenty in this interview that is full on C-level businessman stuff, in chasing infinite shareholder growth and stuff like. I think at one point he quite literally says, like, why would people own shares in something if they don't expect growing returns on them?
But I think even that's presented, and that's the 20,000 foot view of all this Phil stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
He is talking about Xbox in the now the current atmosphere of, are they in big trouble in terms of hardware?
Right. Yeah. The thing I was going to say though is like, when he says something like, I wish I could get my Fallout 76 save on this Ally and I can't, like, you believe him because you actually think he probably does play Fallout 76, right?
Yes.
Like he never feels like he's fronting when he talks about actually playing games and understanding the user experience.
And I think that translates to when he says, why would somebody invest? These are public companies. Why would somebody invest if they're not going to get their money back? I don't take that as snarky. I take that as the reality of the business he works for, right? Like he has to answer to somebody, and maybe that's giving him a little more benefit of the doubt than I should, but he has always struck me as somebody trying to straddle both sides of that. Like, look, we are a for-profit business, but I genuinely like this. I like gaming and I like this space. I'm not here to just mine it for all the money it's worth, but also Xbox. This is the thing he hammers home constantly. This has to be a growth industry, right? And that's maybe where you have to be on board with that philosophy or not to take the rest of what he says as a necessary thing, which is basically, unless I'm reading all of these things wrong, saying Xbox software and ecosystem needs to go beyond Xbox hardware. Yes. Or whatever Xbox hardware is currently, which is a $500 box under a TV.
Yes. Yeah, actually, to the point about him being blunt in here, I'm paraphrasing, but there at one point he quite literally basically says, like, hey, I don't have the luxury of running a division at Microsoft that loses money.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
right.
Like, that's not going to work. I mean, that's just the system as it exists today.
No, I mean, the thing that we've always heard is that, companies like Microsoft are willing to, lose money on hardware to a certain degree as long as these software sales eventually make up for that. And right now it seems like that has not been the case for Xbox.
Yeah, that's the main point he makes in here is that, like, hey, we can't subsidize like we used to because the ceiling on the sales is such with exclusives that your customer pool is too small. He goes through the same song and dance that everybody's been saying for a while of, like, console exclusives are super expensive to make and they can't recoup on one platform anymore. $300 million for one game makes everybody very risk averse, stuff like that.
Right.
The one kind of like piece of analysis or little like extra aspect he adds to this that I hadn't really thought about much recently is that I guess the way he puts it is kind of like the console audience is not expanding to new people.
Right.
It's just that the existing console customers are pretty steadily upgrading to better consoles.
Right.
But you're not bringing in new people who didn't play on consoles in the past.
Which I believe, I guess,
It's more of just a consistent trade up. I mean, that's kind of just a different way of saying things that we have been saying for a while that, like, hey, a lot of younger people are on PCs and mobile now and that type of stuff.
Yeah. And that's what he's been saying, other people have been saying is, with the cost of development and the cost of servers and the cost of running studios now, you're either selling more copies to other people and expanding that market, or you're raising the prices somewhere, right? And he's kind of saying, we're not raising the prices yet, and the pool is not widening here. So Microsoft or Xbox is really, it sounds like in these 5 pieces you linked here, Brad, really just saying, we want everything everywhere, and we want everyone here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other leg of this thing is that he flat out said other third-party storefronts on Xbox would be fine with him. I think it was he didn't say these names. I think it was Polygon that proposed these names to him, but like the Epic Game Store and itch.io, for example, which I would love to see itch on an Xbox. That would be rad. Like the Epic Game Store I could take or leave, but itch in particular with a lot of the weird stuff that gets put on there for a very low cost would be pretty cool to see on a console.
I wonder if you got Epic Game Store on on a Microsoft console, if Epic or Xbox, if Epic would be like, and you're not taking a cut, right? This is our game store, and any transactions that happen from games within don't need to go back to the store.
Oh, that
we'll see.
Flat out is not going to happen. They can say whatever they want. I think he flat out says in here, I mean, not that it really needs to be spelled out, but he flat out says like, hey, yeah, then we would be getting a percent of a dollar of every dollar that's sold on our platform subsequently, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, he does some of this stuff here. You're right in describing it. It's like some of it does have a C-suite stink to it, but some of it though, the thing that I was like, I don't know, Phil, if this makes sense. He talks about Windows and being like, you'd be shocked if Windows only let you get from like the Windows Store to buy games. It didn't allow you to go to the Steam Store or Epic Game Store. That would be such an incredulous thing. Like you'd be like, I don't know if this is apples to apples here.
Yeah. Well, they would like for it to be.
That's I think the position. I think understanding that position where it is very clear now that Xbox hardware has come in third place, right? Like it is not up for debate.
Firmly.
Yeah, that's kind of the postscript to this is that GamesIndustry.biz did a podcast coming out of GDC where Christopher Dring, the head of the site, there's one quote in particular, which is not the pull quote here, but I think Xbox is in real trouble as a hardware manufacturer. That was the thing that came out of GDC for me.
Yeah.
Flatlining is the word that got pulled into all the headlines about this podcast, which was in reference to Europe in particular.
Sales wise, right?
Yes.
Like console sales.
I heard it from a very prominent company, and one not so prominent was Xbox's performance in Europe is just flatlining. I mean, we've talked about similar stuff in the fairly recent past.
Yeah.
There's one other quote in here.
Is it the developer one?
Yeah, the phrase one major company who released a big game last year said was, "I don't know why we bothered supporting it." So yeah, dire, PS5 obviously doing way better, but Sony's got their own issues with install base growth and stuff.
And did you see some of that reporting on the articles going around with I think it was, I forget which developer, I'm sure they were anonymous, saying, I don't know why we need a PS5 Pro. Those stories going around.
I don't either, to be honest with you. Like, even as we've talked about that has still feels to me like a very strange move.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting it, but also I feel like this plays into like the ongoing and increasing problems with the whole console business and how sustainable it is. Like, for example, apparently Dragon's Dogma uses ray tracing pretty heavily, and that game's got performance issues on consoles. It doesn't run great. So if you say, hey, the PS5 Pro has 3x ray tracing performance on it, if you're telling me, hey, Dragon's Dogma will run way smoother on a Pro, I'm like, okay, fine, all right, sure. But the bigger point there is we're only 3 years and change into this generation, and games are already, things get optimized, like games always run better in the back half of the generation as they learn the hardware better, but like we're halfway through and games are struggling with this hardware already, which highlights the problem of, and he talked about it in here, component prices aren't falling the way they used to. Like, the level of power we can offer for $300 to $400, $500 is not what it used to be, and that's just going to get worse and worse. And that's just going to accelerate the problem of people not preferring consoles anymore.
That I should say that PS5 Pro stuff also came out from Dring on the GI Microcast. And the quote that he puts here, I don't think it was the same thing that you were talking about, but I'll be honest, I didn't meet a single person that understood the point of the PS5 Pro. Developers didn't seem to feel they needed it because they weren't really making the most of the PS5 in the first place. This generation doesn't even seem to have got started, let alone needs a mid-generation upgrade, which, I don't know, I'm kind of with you, Brad. Like, if you're not exploiting all the power in there yet, it seems like there's room to go, like you said, with performance issues and stuff already. Is that untapped potential still there, or are they just trying to make it easier?
How much of it is there to make this worthwhile?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, that's not something that exists on one axis, so it's hard to answer a question like that. It's not like there's just a single bar graph of performance. There's different metrics there depending on how a game works. But yes, I'm sure absolutely there is still potential in the existing hardware.
So then, you have Phil Spencer going out and trying to basically, what feels like to me, and it should be pretty obvious, open up other avenues for revenue for Microsoft and for Xbox, right? They, put your games, and we've seen this already announced with some games, and it seems to be rumored, speculated, if all not kind of predicted, that will continue down to have first-party games on other platforms. I don't think anything Phil said here, aside from really saying that or hinting that they are thinking about handheld hardware, was that surprising to me.
No, it's all pretty much just an extension of the same story they've been telling for basically years now. Like I said before, like it was like 5 years ago, the rumors about them trying to get Game Pass on a Switch were going around.
Right, yeah. So kind of interesting, though. It's always interesting to hear him, somebody who I trust to be very aware of the situation, go into what is going on with development, right? At this level and publishing, because Brad, you mentioned it before. One of the articles you linked here from Polygon goes into, or tries to at least break down in layman's terms, previous launching of consoles with subsidizing consoles through sales of games and what it looks like now in terms of that marketplace. And it doesn't seem that great, if your base isn't getting bigger.
Yeah, it kind of feels like this crisis in consoles is maybe going to come to a head faster than you might think, in terms of companies pivoting and making like previously unthinkable business moves.
So do you think, it was hard to parse out from some of the language explicitly here, but do you think the uptick in PC adoption is because of console specific things, or better, like worse situation in consoles or better situation on PCs?
I think it is much more additive. It's much more, here's what you can get on a PC, even though it costs more to get in. It's like the performance is way better. The games go on much more aggressive sales much more often.
Yeah,
you can mod the hell out of the games and make them whatever you want.
And well, not Nintendo, but Sony and Microsoft are pushing their games on PC now, right? So
yes, to a degree, yeah. Like all Xbox first-party games are already on PC. Sony is moving in that direction. And there are aspects of consoles that negatively reinforce that, like console games are struggling in performance at just the same time that PCs are getting faster and faster. You know what I mean? Like, so those things kind of go hand in hand. But I think it's mostly like, look how much better the PC is as an experience.
Yeah, and there's also a generational thing. I mean, it's a thing that he touches on when he talks about the fact that, like, like people don't expect to just have a box that plugs into their TV and that's it. That's where you play these games. They play on mobile. They play on all sorts of different platforms. Also, generationally, more and more people are just conditioned to spend more of their time in front of the computer than when we were coming up. Like it is. I think there is just sort of this built-in understanding that there is a computer in your household and you are probably spending some hours on it every day just to kind of exist in the modern, at least American world.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I still too, well, I'm kind of an idiot and old school that way too, but I still prefer to have my couch console experience, right?
Me too.
But you can put that PC, easily hook that PC up to my TV. That got easier.
Yeah.
It's never
PC
been
games,
easier. Yeah, it's never been easier. Most PC games that at least have a console analog will have, and this is probably speaking to our age because some people are like, yeah, no shit, have comparable controller support. It wasn't always the case, right? Like, but now they seem to be like plug and play. The drivers are there. Like it'll map the controllers right on.
It used to be that basically, the day they made it so that Xbox 360 controllers could just plug into your PC and basically work, that was like a revelation.
Yeah. I mean,
you didn't have to go out there and buy a fucking Logitech piece of shit fucking, PC controller. And it's like now everything basically works. Maybe less so than Nintendo Pro stuff, but like other than that, you can basically plug a PlayStation controller into your PC now and do very little work to make it work.
Will was telling me recently that apparently Steam will now update the firmware on a DualSense automatically.
Oh, wow.
Like he said until recently, if you plugged in your DualSense into the PC, Steam would be like, hey, you need to update the firmware on this. Go to this Sony.com site to download and install blah, blah, blah.
Or just go plug it into your PlayStation.
Apparently now Steam will straight up directly update your PlayStation controller for you.
When we were playing Helldivers with him, he said the haptics were working in Helldivers, which is, so like, I don't even mean the controller stuff too. I always think about, I think it was Mass Effect on the PC didn't have controller support. I'm pretty sure it didn't. And it was like, what are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and we could not be further from that sort of thing being the norm.
Right.
This Polygon story links to this report from Benefactor, which is a research firm that came out, I think it was late last year. I have not seen before. More than 70% of the country's households with kids under 19 or under, use computers and increasingly use them as like the hub for entertainment, which is like a huge number in that age bracket that I would not have expected.
Yeah, I wonder how many people are HDMIing out of a video card into their main TV at this point for stuff like streaming media, watching videos, a Plex server even maybe, I don't know. games.
I don't know. I think Alex is probably right. A huge chunk of those people are just straight up sitting at a desk in a computer situation.
Yeah.
For very long periods of time.
It could be. I was thinking more like with the kids, but I think I'm probably thinking of younger kids and not like teenagers who probably have their own computer at a desk. I would also assume most of that stuff is on their phone too. They're in a bed or something looking at a tablet or a phone, which Microsoft would love to be on there too, I'm sure. Very interesting stuff coming out of there. I think we are in a lot of ways seeing, I think this language is actually echoed by or I'm echoing it from Phil Spencer, an inflection point in a lot of these things, where the next 5 years are going to look very different than the previous 5 years in terms of the players in this space and what they're putting out.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. Real quick, one other Christopher Dring quote, if I can find it. I mean, the gist of it was he understands that. Oh, here it is. He was, with Xbox putting some of the games on PS5, and from what I understand, the majority of them will be coming across at some point, assuming it progresses as Xbox believes it probably will. So you could have predicted that probably, but it sounds like they are maybe short of Starfield going to bring just about everything over at some point. But now I'm sitting here thinking, like, what is the next crazy move somebody could make that hasn't already been made? Like, Xbox games on PlayStation already happened. Day one PlayStation games on PC has already happened. Like, short of PlayStation games on Xbox, which I kind of don't ever expect to happen because there's just not enough upside for the investment there. Trying to think, like, what is the next insane thing you could see happening?
Nintendo doing anything literally off their own platforms. That's it.
Yeah. Or allowing somebody else more fully onto their platform. I mean, Grounded is on there now. There are more Xbox games than just Minecraft now on the Switch. But.
I mean, Microsoft had been doing that work with Nintendo for a while to basically, thaw out the relations and find ways for them to work together, like on the Rare stuff and other things. But, obviously that stuff appearing on Switch is still the biggest example of that shit really being really far away from the way it used to be.
I do wonder. I mean, you're right, Brad. It doesn't make financial sense to strike a deal with Xbox for something like Helldivers on Xbox.
Maybe Helldivers,
maybe,
something that. I mean, Phil said this when that game came out, but of course he did. He was like, "Oh, I wish they could play Helldivers on Xbox."
Yeah.
But, there's kind of an argument when it's a game like that needs a thriving online community to stay a going concern.
And there's a lot of transactions that happen that will, even if you're getting 20%, even if they're taking 20% or whatever it is, you're still getting 80%, which is better than 0 from that audience, right?
Yeah. But something like a God of War, like a single player Last of Us marquee single player thing, because it's not cheap to port a game like that to another platform.
Yes.
And you got to make sure you can make that up and then some.
And, support that community, the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, look, we never thought we'd see Sonic on a Nintendo console, but here we are. They're at the damn Olympics together all the time, every 4 years. That is the Xbox and Phil Spencer news. Okay, my last question to you guys, because I haven't seen it, but is this sending shockwaves? Is this ringing the bell of those same people that were saying the Xbox is dead? I'm getting off.
I don't really see a ton of people saying too much about this. I think because it's just an extension of similar stuff he said in the past.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the doom and gloom has just been there for a while, and every new thing kind of just sort of riles it up a little bit, but I wouldn't say that it seems like anyone is more freaked out about this than they were before.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the real sign will be what they announce for hardware next and when.
Yeah.
Like, do they come out with a handheld in a year, or show off a prototype or something? When does their next console get announced? Stuff like that.
I mean, they've wanted to build an Xbox experience on the PC for so long, almost a walled garden, where you can launch Xbox games, and they had like 3 different apps. Do you remember, like the Game Pass app, the Xbox app? And I feel like they want that experience in other places. It's just they've never really quite hit it unless they have their own hardware. If they did a handheld, and would it have to run some version of their whatever. I don't know. Do they have a name for their console OS? Like it's not Blades, whatever it's not Metro. What?
No, they don't really. Just kind of the Xbox dashboard.
Okay, yeah. Like, is that a thing, or do they want basically Windows on there and you launch a thing, right? Like that would be my question.
Yeah, I wonder what the Xbox division or even Microsoft more broadly has to be thinking, looking at SteamOS.
Yeah.
Like, is there a division in Windows somewhere spinning up some kind of like handheld first, gaming first, stripped down, streamlined version of Windows to run on these devices? I don't know.
What do they have in terms of like other hardware? I'm sorry if this is really ignorant, but does Microsoft still put out a phone at all? Hardware?
No, not really.
Okay.
Maybe the Surface line is pretty big, but those are kind of like hybrid tablet, laptop sorts of things mostly.
Are they running some special version of Windows?
They run Windows for ARM, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Microsoft is getting into chip design. Have been investing in that for a while. Kind of.
Okay. Well, there
everybody is following in Apple's footsteps on wanting to make their own ARM chips now.
No Windows CE or something else running in it?
Not really, I don't think.
Okay. Well, like I said, I think we're going to see a lot more diversion from where we were, from where we were previously. I mean, they're basically saying it, so I'll take them at their word. All right, moving on to our next story here. Baldur's Gate 3. Huge hit. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves it. Everyone. Larian! Woo, you did it! I can't believe it. We always had faith in you, the Divinity people. Why didn't we do this sooner? It's just a joining of two great forces. Wow. What one great force, Larian and then Wizards of the Coast.
Can't wait for their Ravenloft game, right?
That's right. All the DLC and everything. And then Larian basically goes out there and is like, look, it was a great thing. Baldur's Gate 3 is awesome. We're not doing any DLC we're definitely not making Baldur's Gate 4.
Yeah. Or in fact, I think they basically said no more D&D, right? Like they will not be working with the D&D license
for the foreseeable future. Yeah.
Again, no plans.
And they've gone out of their way to explicitly say this is not because of any kind of butting of heads, or we did not get into a fight with Wizards. And from all intents and purposes, what I could tell is Wizards was extremely happy with the money they have made from Baldur's Gate 3.
God, I should hope so.
Yeah. It would be very silly not to be.
If they're not happy with what Baldur's Gate 3 did, then there is no pleasing them.
Yeah, right, exactly. And Wizards of the Coast has a lot of D&D stuff going on currently. They are in the process of getting their next... They're in 5th edition now, and they're in the process of spinning up their next edition. And along with that, they're going very digital with that stuff. They are doing digital tabletop stuff. They are kind of integrating more D&D Beyond, which is their digital character sheets and counter builder and stuff. So from what I can tell, I think they've used the term pillars, but they have different pillars of their next thing to make it
not
very
pillars
digital.
Of eternity.
Not pillars of eternity, yes. So Larian Studios... and specifically, is it Vinky or Vink?
I'm not sure.
Vinka? Sven has said, basically, reading the Reddit threads, which, hey, we all do it. I would like to clear up something. Wizards of the Coast is not to blame for us for taking a different direction. On the contrary, they really did their best and have been great licensors for us, letting us do our thing. That is because it's what's best. This is because it's what's best for Larian. We are a company of big ideas. We are not a company that's made to create DLCs or expansions. We tried that actually a few times. It failed every single time. It's not our thing. Life is too short. Our ambitions are very large. And they go on to say, D&D, Baldur's Gate is amazing and it's awesome. So kind of a surprise. I thought they'd have one small piece of DLC by them. Whether Wizards contract someone else out for additional content for Baldur's Gate, I don't know. It's not clear here, and maybe it was made clear at a panel or something what the rights ownership is for Baldur's Gate 3. I assume Wizards is allowed to contract other people out and use the code that they have. And
I would think so.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but let's not forget that Larian has their own Divinity universe.
Yeah. There's only two big questions here for me. A, does Larian go straight back to Divinity, or Are they going to do another? Are they going to launch yet another new IP?
Something new, yeah.
I don't know how loose is the Divinity universe. I don't know. Is there a very clear lineage from game to game there, or
I have not played all of the Divinity stuff. I've like touched some of it, but I'm pretty sure it's a fully fleshed out universe. And Original Sin and Original Sin 2, I think did pretty well for them.
Yeah, I think so. Of course, now, I mean, like, those games were great, and I think they had plenty of reputation, but coming off of Baldur's Gate 3, I have to imagine, like, you don't need D&D anymore. All you need to say is, hey, this is from Larian, and everybody will show up.
Or I would say, even in the broader sense, on your packaging, you say, from the makers of Baldur's Gate 3.
Well, yeah.
Because, yes.
Get that name out there.
Yeah, seriously. So, while it surprises me, they're not going to do any more content, and that's just because I'm a big fan of Baldur's Gate 3 and I want to see well-made additional content from them. Them moving off to 100% own the next thing. It would surprise me if they do another license thing, I guess, at this point. If somebody else...
Not next. I mean, I'm not saying they'll never do it, but yeah, I don't think that's going to be their next thing.
I bet they go back to their own... I don't know. You know, game studios are weird, man. Like, financials
especially
on
these days.
Yeah, yes. If you exist still. Game studios and especially independent game studios. Again, I don't know for sure. I hope this game did very well for them as well. And they didn't this is one of those stories you're like, they got like $20 for Baldur's Gate 3 in the end. I hope it did extremely well and funds them for a very long time. And I think from what I have heard kind of anecdotally, that is the case, that they run their studio well and they are pretty careful about their planning and budgets and stuff. So I hope they have runway to do what they want to do next. And it seems like coming out the other side of Baldur's Gate 3, Wizards is probably very happy, and I'm sure Larian is.
Yeah, that was my other big question is, what does Wizards do now to follow up on Baldur's Gate 3 since Larian is exiting the picture? Like, do they... Maybe not necessarily a Baldur's Gate 4 immediately, but like, do they go find another studio to try to follow in these footsteps and make a similar kind of game?
They send the Pinkertons over to Larian to break some kneecaps and steal all the code, is what I assume Wizards is doing.
It's just like you've got, I hesitate to call it a template because like that kind of, I don't want to minimize the effort or what Larian did with that game, but you can at least look at Baldur's Gate 3 and like sort of see a roadmap to making a game like that if you're a different developer.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they try to find somebody else with RPG chops and try to capitalize on this momentum with a similar style of game.
Yeah.
With somebody else, and who that would be.
I know Larian had said they were trying to add in modding stuff to Baldur's Gate 3, and traditionally, right? Again, if you've been in this industry for a while or playing for a while, a lot of people who went on to do DLC started off as modders for older content, right? People who can do it well, knew the tools well, and could build out that stuff. So I don't know if that still holds water today. Games are very complicated, but
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think who's out there that could even follow in these footsteps like that. Like Obsidian is part of Microsoft now.
Yeah.
Who else makes
yeah.
By definition, not a lot of people still make this kind of game because it is a throwback that hadn't really been seen much for a while.
And I bet those tools that they use to make it are, I would guess, and I'm just speaking out of my butt here, but pretty bespoke, right? I'm sure it seems like a complicated enough game where, I'm sure they have like 7 scripting languages that have weird acronyms.
I wonder if you could see, well, if it depends on who owns the technology, like you said, but almost a Fallout 3 to New Vegas style of thing of like, maybe we can find another developer to make a game directly in this mold. Yeah. With the existing technology.
Or, maybe the next people they get do just as well and take a bigger swing at it, right? And they do their own thing. The problem, I think, is this game hit hard, filled a need that was obviously or a hole that was made because this stuff was missing, and Wizards has had so many whiffs for the D&D franchise in terms of video games. I mean, they just had those 2, that one we played together, remember, that was just not that good. There was another one, I think, as well. So we'll see. But best of luck, Larian.
Yeah.
Get out there, make cool stuff.
Yes. The last thing, like mentioning Pillars of Eternity earlier, makes me wonder the last thing I'm curious about, and there's like a vanishingly small number of people who could answer this question, like Josh Sawyer, if you're listening, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wonder, as a head of or a designer of a bigger RPG like this, is it harder to come up with your own universe, or work with a licensor's existing IP and universe. You know, like on the one hand, you've got to come up with an entire freaking brand Bible,
right?
Like codex, menagerie, like all the shit you need to populate a fantasy universe, like out of nothing. On the other hand, you've got to work within somebody else's boundaries and like adhere to literally everything they will and will not let you do with the property. Like, I wonder which one of those is actually more desirable.
I bet one might be. If I had to guess, one might be harder and more upfront, but more rewarding. And one might, especially if you're talking about a tabletop rule system where you're kind of figuring out how to adapt rules to a computer, and but you have all this history and lore to go on. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the first option, building your own thing, it's a lot more upfront work, but it gives you a lot more nimble flexibility in terms of what you want to do.
Definitely.
Every person I've ever heard who has worked with a licensor has, without fail, always told me there were 1,000 hidden problems that came along with it because there were just things that they were completely inflexible about.
Yeah, I could see it.
Next up, the Capcom stuff. So we talked about Dragon's Dogma. We kind of mentioned a bunch of the stuff that is going on there, some of the stuff that they're planning to add in their roadmap. I don't think we hit all of it, though. We did mention that you can't make additional characters, or at least delete your current save and start a new game without literally deleting your current save in the OS level of the console you're on. I had to do it on the PlayStation, and
I did as well. But I guess that's all this is. I don't know. I think I had taken this to mean way more than it actually might mean. Now that I've reread it a couple times, like you said, they put out a roadmap for the game and stuff they plan to fix in the short term. The literal number one, adding the option to start a new game when save data already exists.
Yeah.
For some reason, I read that in passing and was just like, oh, they're going to let you have multiple characters. Reading that again, I'm not sure they're actually going to do that.
Yeah.
I think all they're saying there, if you read that explicitly, all it's saying is you can replace your existing character with a new one.
Which is what I was expecting out of the box.
Yes, because that always has felt to me like an intentional, like, you're going to have one character and it's going to autosave all the time.
Yeah.
And that's it, and you're going to like it.
So that's kind of the biggest one there. I think there are a couple of other smaller ones here on their to-do list.
Yeah, they do say they're working aggressively on performance, which is nice to hear.
Improving the quality when DLSS super resolution is enabled.
Yeah, they're adding a bunch of stuff on consoles. You can toggle on and off motion blur and ray tracing. They're going to give you a capped 30 FPS option. I mean, that's all good to hear, but also they say these options will not affect the frame rate significantly. Frame rate improvements are planned for future updates.
Keep it
like the PlayStation 5 Pro. No.
Yeah. Right.
Like when you update your console, that's when it'll run better.
When the beefier hardware comes out. But that's not the only Capcom news or rumor. Well, that's less rumor. That's actual patch notes.
Yes. This is a rumor, but also it comes from Dusk Golem, who is a very prolific leaker with a pretty good track record. Or a very good track record, I guess I would say. Who's out there in the wake of Dragon's Dogma, talking about some stuff going on internally at Capcom, and specifically, I'm just going to read this line from their tweets.
Sure.
Dragon's Dogma 2 expanded the RE engine functionality for open world games. The two other games building on this tech are Monster Hunter Wild and Resident Evil 9. And like Monster Hunter Wild, least surprising thing you have ever heard in your life.
Yeah.
Open world Resident Evil, though.
What would that be?
I don't know, but I think I want that.
You see that zombie? You can climb it.
I mean, it makes a certain amount of sense. I mean, if they want to fucking, expand beyond... I mean, they did 2 games in first person, which was in itself a wild divergence from where Resident Evil had been. 4 was a divergence from the kinds of games they were making before. What's the next logical step if you want to keep escalating?
Yeah, that series does need to evolve. As much as I would love like something like the 2 remake that's just like, hey, you're in a place, you're in a mansion, you're in a...
Yes.
What is a previously unused single location? They've done cop station, they've done mansion.
Facilities. underground facilities.
I started to say casino, but Dead Rising ran away with that one already.
Small European towns that are infected.
But yes, you're right. Like there needs to be a next thing for Resident Evil, and this sounds like a pretty exciting thing for that to be. Also, they've kind of been going in this direction, right? Like Village sort of almost is open-ish world.
It's in the neighborhood.
It's more of a hub and spoke kind of thing, but you do crisscross back and forth a bunch in that central area.
Yeah,
and like you could argue that RE4, like the lake area, is kind of like that a little bit. I mean, it's not the same thing, but you can kind of see the sensibilities moving in that direction.
Yeah, but like it's still in a pretty strict bounding box.
Yeah, it is, of course, and I'm sure like as highlighted here, and some of that is based on technology and what they have to work with.
I think for me what it would come down to is, do you lose a lot of the kind of bespoke encounters and the real manicured way that Resident Evil can set up its quote-unquote horror and survival horror in an open world? Do you lose that for more of, whatever open world is? You can come at this sideways. You can come at this head-on, sideways, upside down, drop in, parachute, Whereas I feel like Resident Evil, even in the more recent ones, at some point you're funneled into a hallway and you got to do your thing.
Yeah, I think there's multiple ways to address that. I mean, you can instance people into contained locations where that kind of authorship is in play.
Right.
You can also, like Dragon's Dogma, you can just come up with an alternate set of mechanics that are so compelling that they kind of take the place of that stuff, right? Like maybe encounters with the larger BOWs out there are like so exciting and dynamic that you don't miss that stuff as much because they found something else that is equally exciting.
What if they did some kind of what if 9 was a semi-online thing where you're pulling in other, I don't remember where the state of this freaking universe is, but I know there's still some kind of Stars equivalent. Oh no, they're working for Umbrella, right? Isn't it Umbrella? They reboot Umbrella.
It's always Umbrella.
What was Chris Redfield's most recent outfit called? I can't remember.
Wasn't it part of Umbrella?
Stuff got weird at the end of Village in a way that I kind of didn't absorb entirely.
But I always thought the back half of, I think it's Village, the back half of Village, where you're like the special ops team, if you make that could be kind of interesting as maybe not a full 9, but maybe...
Now you're just describing Operation Raccoon City again. Let's be careful what we wish for, please.
Was 5... How did 5's... Like, I remember the map feeling wide, but it must have been channeled into corridors. And
it was
right?
pretty limited. I mean, it was on the 360 and PS3, so...
Yeah.
I'm excited for this. I'm a full-on Resident Evil stan at this point.
What do you think? What do you think the timeline on? Well, this said no, like announced Resident Evil yet, right?
No, definitely not. Although we talked was only like a month or less ago. It might have been the same leaker said there's like 5 Resident Evil products or projects in development right now.
At least one or two of those has to be a remake of some kind, right?
Yeah, for sure. Could be 5 remake. Could be a second one remake, as we've said.
I wonder how Dragon's Dogma does for their books.
I bet very well.
You think?
I bet, even with all this microtransaction nonsense.
Yeah.
I bet it does quite well.
And they've got that Monster Hunter next year, I think it is, right?
Yes, Wild is next year.
We'll see. Capcom.
Yeah, you could maybe see a Resident Evil product getting announced this year of some kind.
Or shown. All right. I think that is the news. We have an email address here. It is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. Brad, you got an email or two this week?
Yeah, a couple here. Adam from Houston.
Okay.
Just want to take a moment to defend Vinny and his use of agita. It's a great word, the root of agitated.
There you go. Finally. The agita wars have begun.
You earned this one.
Furthermore, Kai Risdal, the host of the Week Daily.
Okay.
Is that a word?
It is now.
Is that a typo, or is that actually a word people use? I think that might be a word people have started using.
The Week Daily?
of, pertaining to, or occurring on weekdays.
So, wait, what's the word again?
Weekdaily.
Wait, like as one word?
Yes.
Okay.
Apparently that's a word.
Okay.
I'll take your word for that.
Hey, look, I can't sit here and tell people that I could use agita as a word and then say, what is this weekdaily, you know?
Yes. Well, okay, on the topic of that word's regionality, he says, furthermore, Kai Ristall, the host of the NPR show Marketplace, uses agita frequently to describe the market, and that fellow is based in L.A. Additionally, Kai Ristall is what I named my character in Dark Souls 1.
Really? That's pretty funny. I like Kai Ristall. Marketplace, Marketplace is pretty good.
Yeah. Those games should have an agita stat.
Mine would always be maxed.
It's like right up there with sanity and stash on the list of interesting RPG stats.
Don't touch my stash.
Any other emails, Brad?
Yeah. How about? I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me. Here it is. Barry from Ireland. Do you think point-and-click games will ever be mainstream again?
In a fashion. I mean, what is mainstream these days, please, Brad?
Fair.
Like, there are people still making point-and-click games. Wadjet Eyes still makes games. There are.
Yeah.
There was that.
They're out there.
Yeah. There was the. Now I can't remember. Not Maniac Mansion reboots. Something Park. Do you remember the Ron Gilbert's
Thimbleweed Park?
Yeah, Thimbleweed Park.
Thimbleweed. Yep. That's game. Point and click games still come out. I still see them out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're mainstream for me, man.
They're still legal.
That's a healthy, optimistic way to look at it.
I think games like we've talked about Open Roads. I feel like those are kind of spiritual successors to the point and click game.
Sure.
Games, if you're finding things, putting them in an inventory and using them in a puzzle, even Myst likes, I think, are some kind of point and click game, you know? Like that kind of game.
And as time goes on, it just gets weirder and weirder to me that at one time point and click adventures were the biggest thing on the computer.
Still the biggest thing.
It's just fucking weird to think about the fact that was the dominant genre.
Yeah, you could not point and click with a controller. That's literally did not have that functionality.
True.
They're great. All right. Is that it for the emails?
Travis and Fargo, what game show have you always dreamed of being on?
Oh. This is more of a sweepstakes. So the thing where you run down the Toys R Us aisle and grab as much stuff as you can fit in your cart within a certain amount of time.
Sure.
I don't know if that was ever turned into a game show. I guess that's kind of like, was it Supermarket Sweep? Is that the one where you go down the supermarket thing and you put everything in there and try to get the most expensive cart? Is that how that game show
I don't know that I've ever seen that show before. This says there is a quiz show element to Supermarket Sweep.
Oh, do you have
combines a quiz show with the novel concept of a live timed race through a supermarket.
Yeah.
There was always a game show part of it before you got to go and do the supermarket run.
Oh, is it whoever wins the game show part gets to do the run?
Yes, there were questions being asked prior to that.
Okay, and is it like how much is like...
it's like Double Dare. It's like, all anyone remembers about Double Dare is the part where you go through the physical challenges and the big obstacle course, but before that, they're at like Mark Summers is totally asking you questions.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I just thought as a kid, the thing where I think you could win the Toys R Us thing is like, man, that's rad.
Oh, the toy run?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude. No, that was my dream. That was every kid's dream.
Well, I don't think it was a game show, but...
That was not a game show. That was a contest.
It was a contest. I just thought, like, everybody I knew, and you guys probably you just go down and grab all the tickets for the video games and shove them in your cart. So
that's like the first thing you do. Then you go get those giant G.I. Joe play sets. Yeah.
You're right, exactly. Do you guys have game shows you would want to have been on?
I don't know. Maybe I think at one time I would have said Jeopardy, but that feels a little more fraught than it used to.
I don't know. Jeopardy's in an okay place right now, I think.
Is it?
Yeah. Like Ken Jennings is basically full-time as the host.
Okay.
And it's been fine.
The other thing about Jeopardy is that I found out, don't they like kind of brief you on the questions before the show?
Wait, really?
Isn't there some aspect of they at least tell you like what the categories are going to be first or something like that?
They might, but the thing is, it doesn't matter because like they're telling you right before you go on the air, not necessarily giving you any time to really prep for it.
I could have sworn there was some preparatory period that I read about. I could be wrong though.
I just thought Press Your Luck seemed like kind of a fun show. Just
whammies.
Yeah, you smash that button. I always wondered if you're playing, is there any monitor where you can see the whammy coming out? Because whammies are the best part of that show. You know,
yeah, well, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Wheel of Fortune, the last episode of Wheel of Fortune. That's what when Pat retires, that's the one I want to be.
That will not be the last episode. That will not be I'm telling you right now, Wheel of Fortune his body will have been desiccated for decades in the ground before that show ever stops.
The last Pat Sajak Wheel of Fortune, I want to get on. And I want to blow it so bad that I become a clip forever of somebody who just goofed up so horribly.
I just want to get on there and yell at him about his politics.
You solve every puzzle with yelling.
There are some absolutely astonishing Wheel of Fortune failure videos floating around out there.
Oh yeah.
I think it was Backler was saying he was into Wheel of Fortune. Remember he talked about I've never been a better podcast. Like just he watches it and they just yell at the screen. And I'm like, man, look, everybody chooses to spend their Wednesday night how they want or whatever. But
I don't know that I've ever seen an entire episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but I feel like all the clips I've always seen, it didn't seem all that hard.
It seems
the
stressful.
late rounds do get a little bit hard, but yeah,
I'm sure it does.
I don't even know if they still do that show.
I think, so you guys seem like you're much more, or at least Brad, you'd want to be in a trivia or quiz show, none of like Fear Factor or...
Oh, absolutely not that, no.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Or like physical, I mean, because those are also guest game shows, right? Like Survivor.
Yeah, does Fear Factor could you actually win stuff on there?
You must have, but people aren't just doing it for fun.
Oh yeah, you won money, I think. Was the thing. But, look, I've been watching a lot of old American Gladiators recently.
Yeah.
Just because I kind of wanted to refresh my memory on why I like that show. I still kind of like it, but also it has completely disabused me of the notion that I could have done anything on that show ever. I have just... Now that I'm older and I kind of have a greater understanding of like what those physical rigors are, every time I see fucking Thunder just shoulder check a guy during Powerball, I'm like, yeah, I'd be dead. I would just die instantly.
I'm with you. Yes, I'm not making it across one of the monkey bars.
No,
I probably a better chance at like Takeshi's Castle or something, just slipping on some whipped cream and falling off a pillar.
I just got to the part where they introduced the rings event, which is the one where it's just like the monkey bar rings where you're like swinging back and forth, and also there's a gladiator chasing you while you do it. And I'm like, dude, my arm would fall out of the socket 10 seconds into this.
Yeah. Yes. That's not going to happen. That's what made it great to watch.
Yes, and not so fun to do.
Did American Gladiators have the other gladiators shooting like tennis balls at you?
Yes, okay. They straight up had tennis ball turrets.
So mean.
That was like the least injuring thing they did to you.
Win, lose, or draw, maybe. That's like I could probably go on something like that. Bumper Stumpers. Remember that one where you get the license plates?
No, I know the one.
Yeah. No. Classic Concentration.
That's probably one of the ones I would have done best at, and it's also one of the most depressing game shows to do well at because the winner always just gets the shittiest car. It's like, here's your Datsun fucking hatchback, enjoy.
I mentioned this before, but remote control, just because I always wanted to just be on a game show where you could just eat snacks in an armchair and then fly backwards.
I would have absolutely demolished remote control, and I'm pretty sure the prizes for that one were like a pittance.
Yeah, I think you got like the worst Casio keyboard.
It was like the first MTV game show, I think, so they had like no budget.
I have to ask before we get out of here, where can one watch the original run of American Gladiators at this point?
I think a whole bunch of it is on YouTube, and one of those smaller streaming sites, I think, had all of it. It might have been like Tubi or Hulu or one of those.
Pluto.
One of those, I think, at least had it at some point.
Man, my new TV, the home screen, which is a Google TV home screen that just aggregates everything, floats a shocking amount of Tubi content on there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some weird shit on Tubi.
It's kind of the Wild West over there.
It really is.
Is Tubi owned by like Amazon or are they independent?
I don't know who owns that.
Is Vivo a thing? I guess I could just name anything at this point. I could just name any
just string any 4 letters together. Say it out loud. It's probably a streaming service.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes on my TV when I'm like, where is this thing? There's like, I've never heard of this service before in my life.
Oh, I watched that on Fraud last night.
Oh. The only place to get bumper stumpers. All right. That's the emails. That's podcast@nextlander.com. Folks.
I have a piece of breaking news here. We have to send a happy trails, or maybe not so happy trails. Former Senator Joe Lieberman has died.
Whoa.
AKA one of the spearheading figures in the 1993-1994 United States Senate hearings on video games.
True.
Alex, we all know Joe Lieberman's a vampire.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying he has returned to his coffin.
Oh, okay. It's gonna.
He's retiring from public vampire life.
I see.
God, it's crazy that the early '90s video game hearings are not the first thing I think of when I hear his name anymore. But you're totally right.
Do you think
that's why I brought it up?
He was the dissenting vote on was it Obamacare? Is he the one that blew that up originally?
He was one of the primary people that blew that thing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will describe him as a controversial figure in American politics. Personally, I will say I had no real love for that guy.
Yeah. I wonder how or the people of the Democrats of around that time will eulogize him because I know there are a lot of angry party members.
I feel like the word maverick will be thrown around all willy-nilly when describing him in politics, and I'm just going to say that word no longer means anything.
I bet there's going to be like a little more of like, he always went his own way.
Joe Manchin of his time.
Was Lieberman, was he Gore's vice president pick?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for that breaking news.
No problem.
Condolences to his family out there and all those who mourn. That's going to do it for the news and the breaking news, we assume.
Mm-hmm.
We have a bunch of stuff going on. Like I said, you can go check out the Beastcast Reunion PAX panel over at patreon.com/Nextlander. It's up there for free, but also in the Beastcast RSS feed if you're still subscribed there. On the Watchcast side of things, we are just about wrapping up our 90s not Marvel heroes section of movies here. We will have next Monday Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You may have heard of them. They are heroes on the half shell.
Turtle Power.
Turtle Power. Perhaps you know them as Teenage Mutant. What is it? Heroes? Heroes? What's the
Teenage
European?
Mutant Hero Turtles.
Hero Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
We will be talking about their big screen debut next Monday. And then in that episode, we have our next block of movies announced, our next Watchcast list. Alex, do you want to announce it here or save it for when the people
tune
get
in
it
and find out?
Great. I love it. Suspense.
We'll talk about it. We'll say at the end of next week's regular podcast once we've already announced it on the Watchcast.
And then we'll be getting back. We have our schedule for when we're getting back to Firewalk with Me and the Twin Peaks stuff too. So I'm pretty excited to jump back in there and see what's going on. Oh, Cooper. We've got the Ramblecast. We've got we'll have a Planorama at the end of this week. All of that stuff over at patreon.com/Nextlander. A bunch of different tiers there. Can't do this without your support. So find a tier there that fits your lifestyle. Just jump right in. All that stuff's just waiting for you. There, if you like that Beastcast Reunion panel, you may not know, but you probably know because I've said it before. Never Been a Better Podcast. all those same folks come through once a month, rotated. All those episodes up there, right on the Patreon. You can listen to them. Dozen plus episodes up there at this point. Plenty of episodes for you. There is one tier there that we carved out special on the Patreon. There's the Mysterious Benefactors tier, and they get their names read on this here show. Alex Navarro, can you read our Mysterious Benefactors for this week?
Oh, I do believe I can. Our Mysterious Benefactors for this week are Sean Miller, RRE, Infelicitous Rips, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deirdre Wants to Get Nuts, Gary Pejsky, Robert Fisher, Bunny Crimes minus vowels, Peter Reardon, Jad Rita, Statics, Fantasticasm 89, Razgriz 2, No Seriously I Do IP Law Hire Me, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiepkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese.
Those are our Mysterious Benefactors for this week, and thanks again to everyone who has supported us at patreon.com/Nextlander. That's gonna do it for the show, folks. That's it. I feel like I don't know how you guys feel about traveling, but I do need some time for my brain to like reset. I need to it feels like I'm still on from last week, you know, and it needs that decompression time. Alex, I did drink 2 of those beers from Treehouse. I'm gonna say I drank the 2 of the same ones. I don't know which one. Did you had one?
I had one of the blue ones.
I had a blue one too.
Yeah.
It was bitter. It's
a bitter my kind of bitter.
Oh, yeah? You liked it?
Yeah.
It might have been a little bit too bitter for me. But it was nice to sit down and relax and play some Dragon's Dogma with the beer. That's actually a pretty freaking cool night. I'm going to try and play some more Dragon's Dogma if I have any time this week, and you can hear all about that next week. It's going to be a busy weekend, though. I don't know. My son, for his birthday, is having just some friends over to play some video games, which I thought is a pretty cool way to spend a birthday. And I'm going to spend some time with him tomorrow, probably playing some Helldivers, another thing he wanted for his birthday, just to play some dang Helldivers during the week. How special.
God, remember Helldivers?
Yes!
I'm still going.
Still
I'd like to play more of that.
Bugs
it's a
are
going
flying.
concern.
The bugs fly around now. Gotta watch out. It's still a threat. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Brad Shoemaker.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Alex Navarro.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week.